And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a WandaVision Season 1, Episode 6, Halloween Extravaganza, all open spoiler discussion. For those of you watching live, sorry that we're a few minutes late. I had some creepy Halloween-like shenanigans going on with my computer. I had to reboot it a couple of times. Computers. Anyway, but we're here. We're up and running. Welcome to be here. Welcome here, guys. It is time for us to go. Hello to everybody in the live chat. A lot of you guys were waiting around for us to get started, and we are ready to get started. And oh my God, if you ever think this episode, this next one is bound to be one that gives us a lull because it's been fireworks after fireworks. Surely this next episode of WandaVision is going to give us a little bit of a lull, maybe a little bit of exposition, just a little bit of setup, just kind of a calmer episode. No, screw that. F you, here we go, bam, Quicksilver, he's not really Quicksilver from the Fox universe, I told you that. Vision, he's not the real Vision, he doesn't even remember he was in the Avengers, I told you that. There was also a number of things I told you that turned out to be completely wrong, as in all of our theories, right? This show, this episode was great. This episode was great. We got to see the kids exhibit their powers. We got to see some really freaky stuff, like conversation stuff with Pietro, or what they're calling Pietro, and Wanda. We got a little more insight. What the heck is cataract? We've got some theories about that. We've got a lot of stuff going on here, and a lot of our theories, I said going in episode 6, I think some of our theories are going to be confirmed. Some of our theories are going to be smashed to bits. That was mine. A couple of my theories kind of confirmed. A couple of my theories smashed to bits, just like the rest of us. And oh my God, how about that commercial? I'm going to tell you right now, I think that commercial just told us exactly what this show is about. I think the commercial told us exactly what today's show is about. And, well, John, what are you talking about? I am telling you this. Okay, now look, by the way, gonna let you guys know, this is not the John Campea Show. This is our WandaVision open spoiler. For our open spoilers, you don't send in questions using the tip link that's in the description. Those are for questions for the John Campea Show. If you have a question, comment, observation, theory, whatever, hypothesis, you name it, that you want on our open spoiler discussion, use the super chat feature here on YouTube. That way we can keep them organized. What things were sent in for the spoiler review, what things were sent in for the John Campea Show. So just a little bit of a heads up there for that. And oh my God, so can we talk about for a second, can we talk about the commercial first? By the way, I'm just going to talk about my theories here, my experience, with this episode. I'm just going to talk about my thoughts on the episode in general for a couple of minutes, and then we're just going to go right to your questions. By the way, Anne is still working. She's in a meeting right now, but she's going to be joining me after the break. We're going to take a break in about 45 minutes or an hour for a few minutes, and then Anne's going to come in and join me. So that's where Anne is. Okay. Can we talk for a second about that commercial? With the shark and the yo magic? Is it just me? Or did that commercial just tell us everything about the show? So the shark comes out. Hey, when I'm hungry and I need to feed, I feed on yo magic. Your magic. Really? Okay, great. And he leaves with the kid, and the kid is trying to open the thing, and eventually the kid withers and withers and withers and withers and then dies. Was that just basically telling us the whole synopsis of WandaVision? That there is another player involved. We've all kind of believed now for a few episodes that there's another player involved. Does that shark represent another player involved, whether that player is Doctor Doom or Nightmare or Mephisto or whoever else you want to call it, whatever it is? The shark represents that person, and basically that person is kind of tricking Wanda into using all this magic, and they are feeding on yo magic. I'm feeding on yo magic. They're feeding on Wanda's magic, and that their constant feeding on Wanda's magic may more and more and more reducing her energy, and that it will eventually kill her. Did they just tell us the show? Because up until this point, the commercials have been reflections of the tragedies in Wanda's life. Everything from the Tony Stark bomb to Strucker to when you have to clean up a mess that you didn't mean to make. From Lagos, all that kind of stuff. Every commercial has been a reflection of the various tragedies in her life. This commercial was not a reflection of any of the tragedies in her life. I think this thing was telling us about what this show's about. Now, I don't know that. That's just kind of my guess. But I was watching that and it's like, oh my God, this is some heavy duty shit. This thing, I feed on yo magic. And I'm like, oh my God, did they just tell us what this is about? So I don't know. And by the way, can I point something out here? Let me point something out. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay. Did you guys notice? I don't know if you did. Did you guys notice when Wanda was out in the street and she was talking to Herb in the street, and then all of a sudden Quicksilver started taking everybody's candy behind them? Did you guys notice? Let me see. Oh, maybe if I bring up the right thing. Did you guys notice the guy standing behind her? Look at this guy. I mean, that could be just like a Halloween statue, but while everybody else was running all over the place and the kids were walking around, this dude, this shady looking mother, whatever, is just standing there, arms folded, looking straight, it looks like, looking at Wanda. And then the camera would cut away to Herb or something like that, and then it would cut back to this camera shot again. And sure enough, this shady AF dude is still just standing there, not moving, staring across a Wanda. Now, I don't know. That might just be a Halloween statue for all I know. That might not actually mean anything. Could be a statue, could be whatever, maybe, but I don't know, man. That looks kind of shady to me. Doesn't it look kind of shady? I don't know what that's all about. Let's talk about Pietro here for a second. So you guys know I've been saying, that's not Pietro from the Fox X-Men universe. That's not him. It's an imposter. It's an imposter or it's something else, right? And did you notice in the opening of this show when they go previously on WandaVision, when she starts talking about Pietro, they actually showed us Aaron Taylor Johnson from Age of Ultron. I mean, I just think that's funny. They didn't show us that before in a previously on WandaVision. They chose to show us Aaron Taylor Johnson. I thought that was kind of interesting in the flashback to Age of Ultron. I thought that was interesting. But as she's talking to Pietro, he's got the memories of the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver. Because, you know, the Quicksilver in the Fox X-Men universe wasn't shot in the street. He's specifically talking about the memories of Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver. But then it seems like he's trying to get something out of her. No, come on. You can talk to me. How are you doing this? What's going on here? What's your secret, Wanda? Tell me how you're doing this. I'm telling you, this dude's an imposter. He's not Pietro. I've been saying that since she popped up. That ain't Pietro. It's at least not the Pietro from the Fox X-Men universe. I think that much is clear now. That much is clear. And then, you know, again, Vision, the whole thing, he can't exist outside of the dome. I don't believe that's actually Vision. That's a remanifestation of a different type of Vision, maybe rebuilt out of the old Vision parts, but Vision is dead. Even Agnes says, Agnes doesn't say you were dead. Vision is dead. Vision's gone. This dude has no idea what happened to him before Westview. This dude has no idea who the Avengers are. This incarnation of Vision isn't the Vision. I don't think. I've thought other things in this show, and those theories have gone to hell too, right? But, oh my God, so there's that. And also, speaking of Pietro, shady. Interesting thing. Pietro did a couple of very interesting things in here. And remember we talked about the commercial, the shark. I feed on yo magic. Did you notice some stuff that Pietro was doing? First of all, as Pietro was sleeping on the couch, I think Speed says to Wiccan, you think he's a vampire. Is he? Is he the type of vampire who feeds on yo magic? Also, he's trying to spend time with the kids. Is he feeding off their energy? Also, he's trying to keep her separated from Vision. When Vision's pulling his little, oh, I have to go volunteer at the neighborhood watch. And she's like, no, it's the kid's first Halloween. What did Pietro do? Oh, no, it's cool. You let Vision go. I'll spend time with the kids. That may or may not mean anything. That may or may not mean anything. But it's just something to keep an eye on here. Also, then Agnes again, under the spell, like, are you here to help us? Are you here to help us? Wanda's not going to let any of us leave. And it can't. And did you notice when Pietro asks her, how are you doing all this? She doesn't deny doing all of it. She just says, I don't know how I'm doing it, but she knows she's doing it. I mean, just, there are so many just little things dropped into this. So many little things that just could possibly have worlds of stuff. And by the way, did you notice that as everybody was disappearing into the force field, into the barrier, they turned into circus clowns and circus creatures? Notice we didn't see what Darcy turned into. I thought was that. And by the way, oh, they're effing with Vision. Okay, boom goes Wanda. Eyes turn red, hands go red, and she expands the barrier. There's no more question. There's no more question about whether Wanda's done the barrier. There's no more question here about whether or not Wanda's in control of the barrier. And I still believe there's another force at play. I do believe there is another force at play too. But at this point, with that ending, there's no question. Wanda's got a large level of control here. And she's like, okay, this thing is only so big. I'm going to expand my field of influence a little bit. Boom! And there it goes. Starts expanding out. Helicopters turning into hot air balloons. Cops with guns turning into clowns. Cats and dogs. It was absolute mayhem. Absolute mayhem. Oh my God. Jar of Snakes is saying in the thing, what if Darcy turns into her two broke girls costume? Gold. Absolute gold. By the way, how was that little name drop with Wanda? Kick-ass? Come on. That was on purpose, right? That little kick-ass thing. Come on, guys in the live chat. You know that was on purpose. That kick-ass reference, totally on purpose. Anyway, so much stuff. So much stuff in this episode. And again, I mean, I was sitting down to watch it last night, and Aaron, it was me, Ann, Aaron Cummings, and her husband, Tom. And we sat down at midnight, turned it on to watch it. And you guys are saying, yeah, you guys all caught that kick-ass reference. That was brilliant. So we sit down to watch the episode. And I remember saying, now this episode is probably going to be a little bit slower, right? There's only 3 episodes left after this one. Probably have a slower episode that just sets up a big finish with the last 3 episodes. But nope, they were dropping all sorts of nuggets. In this thing. Absolutely crazy. Loved it. I thought the episode was great. That being said, guys, let's spend the majority of the rest of our time here taking your theories, comments, questions, observations, whatever it is, guys. Let's go over again. Remember, do not use, for these spoiler videos, don't use the tip link that's down in the description. Use the actual super chat feature. And what do you say, guys? Let's get into it here. Okay. We're going to start things off with Kirky Novak was the very first one to send one in when we posted this event to go live last night after the episode. Kirky Novak writes, Super Chat, I've been a giant fan of Young Avengers, especially Billy. Got to see them in their little costumes, especially Billy since issue 1. Seeing him in his original costume puts tears in my eyes. Love the show. That was great. Also, how about seeing Pietro in the classic 80s and 90s style Quicksilver outfit with just the shirt and the lightning bolt and kind of the Wolverine hair, right? That was adorable. And then when the kids got into their outfits too, and each of them started manifesting their powers as well, that was a really nice moment, Kirky. Like a very, very nice moment. I really appreciated that. All right. Thanks for being the first one to send in a question for this one, Kirky. Okay, next up. Where are we at? Rylan Holman writes, the great thing about this show is that it gives possible answers, not confirming answers, and leaves us still asking the same and also new questions. Yes, it does. For example, the end of episode 4, as Monica wakes up in the field and says, "It's all Wanda." Really? It's not all Wanda. I mean, it is mostly Wanda, right? I think we all agree on that now. It's mostly Wanda, but it's not all Wanda. And by the way, how about she's referenced her engineer dude again? My guy is coming. He's going to meet us over the ridge in about an hour. We're going to go over there and meet my guy who's going to give me this device, is going to let me go back into the barrier. Who's the guy? Reed Richards? Hank McCoy? Forge? I don't know. I mean, I don't think Hank McCoy or Forge because they're X-Men characters, but I mean, who's this going to be? It's obviously somebody, right? Because they keep hinting and teasing this character. So it's going to be somebody. Is it Hank Pym? I still think there's a chance Michael Douglas pops up here. I think there's a chance Michael Douglas pops up here as Pym to kind of fix the problem. So I don't know. Somebody's writing in the live chat, Rhodey. Well, Rhodey's not an astro engineer, so I don't think it'll be Rhodey. But anyway, so I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. But you're right. It sort of hints at what the answers are, but doesn't give us definitive things on what the answers are. And it keeps us on the hook. It's really good that way. All right. Nick C writes, "Wow, John, just when I thought we would get some answers, I find myself totally lost and all prior theories starting to fall apart. Is it next Friday yet?" That's the thing. That's it. I mean, that's it right there, right? This whole episode was like, look at all the theories falling apart, including several of mine. Look at all the theories falling apart in this one. I mean, not definitively, but a bunch of them started to fall apart. Some of them started to get maybe confirmed. I don't know. It was just like this whole, all I know is that I'm getting more and more frustrated that these episodes are so damn short. Because like this, the credits roll, I think this one was 37 minutes. And when the credits roll, I'm like looking at my watch, 37 minutes, and now we got to wait another damn week. For this damn thing. So yeah, right. Yeah. Is it next week yet? Now we start the countdown clock for next week. All right. Thanks for that, Nick. Nick also writes, big takeaways. Number 1, who is this Pietro and how does he know all this? Number 2, what happened to Agnes? Number 3, who is the damn astronaut? Remember, it's an astro engineer. It's an astrophysicist engineer. I can't remember exactly. Do you guys in the live chat remember specifically what she referred to? It's like an astro something engineer. In episode 5, she referred to exactly what they were. And I can't remember but it's astro something. I don't know if some of you guys remember that in the live chat. An aerospace engineer. Thank you, Jared and Tom and Andrew and a bunch of an aerospace engineer. Thank you. Aerospace engineer. Right? So that rules out Scott Lang. Scott Lang's not an aerospace engineer. It rules out a lot of people. Just because they're smart doesn't mean they fit. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where they do with that. So I don't know. I mean, I think they're obviously answering that question next episode. Who is this aerospace engineer? I'm going to keep forgetting and asking you guys to remind me. What was they called again? Aerospace engineer. It's going to be interesting to see what happened to Agnes. Hey, listen, they keep hinting that Agnes is something special. That's clear. Do you notice Agnes was in the opening credits of this week's episode too? Agnes is clearly special. There's something different between Agnes and the rest of the residents of Westview. That is clear. But I still don't believe she is the evil behind the scenes. She's clearly afraid of Wanda. We've seen that. Then we get this scene with Vision. It's like, are you here to help us? Wanda will never let us leave and blah, blah, blah. So there's something off about her, but I still don't think she's like the evil behind the scenes. Yes or no? I don't know. We'll find out. And this Pietro, all I know is that he isn't the actual Pietro he's not Peter from the Fox X-Men movies. I mean, I said that from the moment he showed up. That is not Peter from the Fox X-Men movies. I think that's beyond dispute now. Now watch next week. They totally confirm he's Peter from the X-Men movies. I don't know. But for now, it seems like that one we can write off. Okay. Hamza writes, I did not expect things to get out of control like this. So wild. The whole episode is about death. We almost saw Vision die again. I'm like, we're sitting there and Aaron is like, Are we watching Vision die for like a third time? Because obviously he died twice in Infinity War, right? And it's like, I don't think he's about to die, but yeah, it feels like we're watching him die. We're seeing him dying again. But you're right, Hamza. Things were getting out of control. Like the stuff, I am haunted by those scenes in Town Square, the conversations between Wanda and fake Pietro, talking about things, the way he was trying to prod her for information. Like even when she said, what was the name of that kid with skin? And Pietro said, you're testing me. But he never answered the question. You notice that? He says, you're testing me. But he never answered the question. It's something that we should put out. And then he's like, so no, really, how'd you do it? And he's totally aware of what's happening, right? He's aware of what's happening. So he's asked Wanda, so what did you do with all the kids before you brought them out for Halloween? And all this kind of stuff, right? So he's aware of what's going on. He knows what this is all about. And yet he's still prodding her. So how'd you do it, Wanda, huh? How'd you do it? Don't you trust this face? Don't you trust me? I'm your brother. Come on. You can tell me. That's shady. That's shady. Okay, anyway. Let's move on here. That was Hamza. Next up, we got Ryan Holman, who writes, 1 of 2. In the past, you used the Far From Home memorial video to support your Vision is Dead thoughts. My defense for it was it also shows Cap, but we didn't know for sure unless Falcon and Winter Soldier changes that. This episode changed my mind. As much as I thought there was a chance, 99% sure that he is dead. Who knows? The next few episodes might change that again. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. Now, look. Yeah, I have been saying I am completely convinced Vision does not get out of this. I don't even think that's actually Vision. Vision's already dead. This being is something different. This being is something new and something different that thinks it's Vision, but it's not really Vision. But either way, whether it is really Vision or is not really Vision, Vision doesn't get out of WandaVision. Now, I would think that just because of the way the show's been going, then I really thought that because when we get to Spider-Man Far From Home, which happens 7.5 months later, they actually say, yeah, Vision is dead in Spider-Man Far From Home. And like watching this episode, I think you're right, Rylan. I mean, when you watch this episode, you realize, oh yeah, this thing can't exist outside of this hex. Whatever that is, whatever this thing that looks like and thinks it's Vision, whatever it is, whether it's the real Vision or not, this thing cannot exist outside of the hex. It's, yeah. You know, somebody just wrote Moonlight Dreams in the live chat, just says it's going to be a sad ending. Oh, no doubt. This is going to be bad. This is not ending well, my friends. This is not ending well. All right, Matt, thanks for writing that in, Rylan. Matthew Cassidy writes, all I got is Pietro is just a recast. Vision can't live without the bubble. Kids' powers are strong, and Darcy knows the director is hiding something. Yeah, I mean, well, that's all I got. That's a lot. That's a lot in one, like, basically half-hour episode. I don't know if Pietro is just a recast. Again, there was some shady stuff in this thing, right? Why does he look different? I mean, he's talking about how I was just shot in the street in Age of Ultron. Okay, so he's supposed to be this universe's Quicksilver. But is he? He didn't answer the test question that Wanda asked him. He's acting all shady. And, you know, how you doing this, Wanda? Separating, making sure that Vision is separated from Wanda. I don't know what he is. I don't know what he is. But there's something shady going on here, Matthew. Something shady. Kids' powers, I don't know how strong they are, but they're clearly starting to manifest. And Darcy, that cataract. What's cataract? We were speculating all before that S.W.O.R.D was experimenting on Vision's body to try to maybe weaponize, to make new weapons, to do new things. I don't know, maybe, but they're hiding something. Something unsavory is going on. And maybe I'm still not convinced Hayward is a bad guy. I totally accept that he very well could be. I mean, you just watch the show. There's a very good chance he could be. That he may be a straight up villain here. Maybe a Skrull, maybe a Kree. I don't know. or maybe just an unscrupulous human who's just got power hungry being the head of S.W.O.R.D. I'm still not convinced he's a bad guy, though. Maybe just not very good at his job, but I'm still not convinced he's a bad guy. We'll find, but he's hiding something, Matthew. He's hiding something. Nick C. writes, Monica's cells mutating. Do you think all the people in the bubble will have the same mutations? Not to stretch it, but it might imply mutants after the show. See, I still have no belief right now that Kevin Feige is using WandaVision to introduce mutants. I still don't believe that's the case. But, I mean, she's saying anybody going in and out of that thing, they're getting changed. I think that's basically saying there's a health thing involved here. But I don't know whether this is... Now, I've already said before, I don't think Monica Rambeau gets her powers, the powers of Spectrum, as she does in the comics. I don't think she's getting her powers in WandaVision. I think she's going to get her powers in Captain Marvel 2. But, hey, your cells are changing. You've been in and out twice now. I mean, maybe that could be doing something. Maybe those changes combined with the energy she was exposed to being around Captain Marvel, maybe they say that kind of triggers powers in her, or maybe not. Maybe it's just a health issue. Maybe it's just saying, hey, listen, this is damaging you like radiation. And if you do this too many times, you could die. So I don't know. Maybe they're doing that. We'll have to see. All right. Hamza writes, I got a similar WTF feeling at the end of Infinity War. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 1000%, Hamza. 1000%. I'm completely with you on that. All right. Next up, Jake Smith writes, okay, we can officially call this an Avengers level threat. No kidding, right? Like if it, first of all, at episode 4, you're like, okay, you guys do recognize this is an Avengers level threat, right? This is not some, random paramilitary group doing this. Is a hexagonal power shield creating an alternate reality bubble. You would think after episode 4, okay, this is an Avengers level threat, and still no call to any Avengers. Then after episode 5, you're like, dear God, clearly now, we can all agree this is an Avengers level threat. Still, no calling in any other metahumans. Now after episode 6, is somebody going to get on the phone with Hawkeye yet? I mean, it's getting, yes, somebody's got to come here pretty soon. All right. Hamza also writes, Disney is doing so well. They know exactly how to keep us hooked and coming back for more. Listen, I got to tell you guys, let's talk about this for a second. If you had told me 2 months ago that Marvel was going to create a show that has no big action set pieces. That's what Marvel does. Big action, fantastic, delicious set pieces. Big, huge battles. And with basically no action, riffing on 50s and 60s sitcoms, and really just being narrative story driven, I would have said, I'm not sure that Marvel is capable of that. Marvel makes great fun stuff, but they do it a certain way. I don't know that they can pull off a show like that. Well, here we are now, after 6 episodes. And fuck yes, they can do that. Oh yeah, they can do it. They're showing they don't just have the ability to keep us enthralled and entertained with Thanos and portals and 500 different characters, where there's a German airport scene where we see like 20 Avengers fighting each other and blah, blah. They don't just do that. We've gone through 6 episodes now, over 3 hours, and there still hasn't been a single fight. I mean, Wanda just hit Pietro. He says, not like your dead husband can die twice. Boom. Okay, but there's been no action sequences. 3 hours in, no action sequences. And yet we are obsessed and enthralled, and what they're doing here is impressive. Okay, anyway, let's see. Next up, the CTB channel writes, I think, and Jack just sent in a super chat badge to be supportive. Thanks, Jack. The CTB challenge writes, I think Agnes was gaslighting Vision, possibly, at the barrier. She knew what happened with Norm and noticed Vision's suspicion towards her. I can't clear her yet. Now, listen, I understand because I get it. I don't really know what's going on with Agnes yet. I don't think she's the threat behind things, but she's not just another member of Westview's community. There is something going on. There's something different with her. If there was any doubt about that, the fact that Agnes is the only non-family member character that was in the opening credits. Agnes! You know, she's bending over at the fridge. There is definitely something going on. I still don't think she's the villain, but there's something. There's absolutely something, CTB. All right, Justin D writes, I do actually think this is all Wanda's doing. It very well could be. I feel Agnes is off the table. It seemed like Pietro was undercover to confirm she's doing this. Could be. Again, there is shady stuff going on here. Like, even I still believe that Wanda is mostly responsible for all this stuff going on. She is mostly responsible. At the same time, I have recently also begun to believe that there is another player involved that is, at least if nothing else, egging her on. You know, trying to manipulate her a little bit. I mean, this is still her doing. Wanda is still responsible for all this. And clearly with her expanding the hex at the end, going boom, by the way, that was pretty impressive. Clearly she's responsible for all this, but I do agree with a lot of other people that there's something else behind the scenes kind of nudging her on. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. All right. DGMC writes, welcome to week 6 of me having no damn clue of what the hell is going on in WandaVision. I am so contently confused that I can't bother theorizing anymore. Oh, dude, listen, this episode, more than any other so far, absolutely open the chaos curtain and let madness rain down. I mean, it's just nuts. Like, what's going on with Pietro? What's going on with the kids? What's going on with Agnes? Is Herb kind of more in on this and we're making it out to be? Ellis Avenue, you know, the expanding of the hex. Who's her aerospace engineer guy? I mean, just a lot of things kind of being confirmed, unconfirmed. Oh, now we know this after episode 5. Oh, now I'm not so sure about that after episode 6. I mean, it's just kind of nuts. So I feel your confusion, DG, but it is obsessive nonetheless, is it not? It is obsessive nonetheless. All right, next up, we got Cam K who writes, and sends like a $20 tip. Thank you, Cam K. Okay, I admit it. I'm off the Mephisto train. Wanda is evil. Those people were crying. And Fran, how do you come back from that? Who would even approach the barrier anymore, knowing it can just expand and they would get sucked in? I mean, yeah. I mean, Wanda is broken. And like any broken person, if you ask her, do you want to hurt people? She'll tell you, no, I don't want to hurt anybody. But remember we talked after episode like 1 and 2? We said this. When somebody is hurting in an almost indescribable way, like Wanda is, when somebody's in that kind of pain, to them, anything they need to do to stop that pain is justifiable. It's justifiable. And that's why she's even aware of this now, because when she was talking to Pietro, and Pietro was like, basically, yeah, I know you're controlling all this. What did you do with the kids before Halloween? Blah. And she's like, you don't think what I'm doing is wrong? He's like, no, I'm impressed. This is great, right? Even Wanda knows on a certain level, this is very wrong. But to a person who's in incredible pain, anything they do that stops the pain is justifiable and right in their mind. And I think we're seeing a lot of that, though. I think we're seeing a lot of that. And yeah, who's going to get close to this barrier anymore? And by the way, how far is this barrier going to stretch? Remember, by the time the episode ended, the barrier hadn't stopped growing. Is it gonna cover the state? Is it gonna cover half the eastern seaboard? Is it gonna cover the country? Is it going to expand and cover the whole world? Did Wanda just go, screw this, boom? If there are people outside my barrier that are going to cause me grief, then there's not going to be an outside of my barrier. Whole planet, boom, thank you very much. Only thing not covered is this little island called Genosha. What's Genosha? Don't worry about it. We'll just leave that little Genosha island alone. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so but I don't know. Maybe it just expands a few more miles. I'm just saying, by the end of the thing, we did not see it stop. Like it's still. Now, some of you guys are saying, a couple of you are saying it did stop. I didn't see it stop. I thought it was still growing. So I don't know. Although maybe you could say when the camera cut back to Wanda and she opens her eyes again and her eyes are red and then the redness goes away, maybe that represented it stopping. But I don't remember the wall. So maybe Wanda's eyes turning back from red represented the expansion stopping. All right, we'll find out. No use debating it. We'll find out for sure when the next episode starts. All right, Cam K also writes, so Herb is kind of like Agnes. He even asked Wanda if she wants him to change anything. What's up with that? Now, listen, remember earlier, I think it was episode 3. I think it was episode 3 or episode 4. It was episode 4. We had Agnes and Herb having that conversation. When Herb starts spilling to Vision what's going on, and Agnes looks at him like, what are you doing? You're going to get us both killed, sort of thing. And she looks terrified. So you're right. Whatever degree Agnes is involved here, Cam, Herb could be involved to that same degree. Yeah, you're right about that. That very well could be what's going on there. All right. Let's move on here. Next up, Harrison Ball writes, 1 second, I think Wanda is in full control. The next, isn't in full control. The next, I think she is. She can move the bubble, but has no idea how it started. I'm not sure yet. Yeah, see, I don't know. When she says, this is where I'm confused too. When she says, I don't even know how this started. Does that literally mean I am completely unaware how this started? Like, there's no way I would know. I don't have any idea how this started. Or is it like, we see in TV and movies when some guy ends up taking hostages and who never meant for things to go that far, and they say, I don't even know how we got to this point. I mean, he's not literally saying he literally doesn't know. He's just sort of saying, this got so far away from me, I don't even know how we got here. Like, I don't even know how it got to a hostage situation, or somebody who's losing their family because of alcoholism in a movie, and they say, I don't even know how this happened. I mean, they're not saying they literally don't know how it happened. They're just saying they have no idea. So when Wanda says in episode 5, I don't even know how this got started. Is she saying that literally, or is she saying that kind of in a way that, a hostage taker says, man, I don't even know how we got here. I don't know how this got out of hand. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. All right. Who was that? That was Harrison Ball. Thanks. And you're right. 1 minute I'm thinking she's fully in control. The other minute I'm not so sure. All right. Ketchup on Eggs. Screw you. Ketchup on Eggs writes, I'm surprised no one has brought up the idea of contacting one of the Avengers. Wouldn't that be the logical thing to do at this point? Listen, this was the logical thing to do in episode 4. It was the logical thing to do, Ketchup on Eggs, in episode 5. And it is clearly the logical thing to do in episode 6. So I don't know what's going on here. Although, it seems like the director of S.W.O.R.D has a little bit of an angst against all superheroes. Because did you notice when he said to Monica, it's like, I notice you're apologetic, not just for Wanda, yeah, and your connection with Captain Marvel, with Carol Danvers, but so he seems to have a little thing against like all superheroes. So I don't know. Maybe that's part of the reason why he's like, nah, screw Avengers, screw the heroes. We're not gonna contact them. I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's not. We'll find out. All right. Next up, Casey McNatt writes, 1 of 2. I'm sorry. Where do we go here? 1 of 2. Why does Wanda keep seeing dead zombie versions of both Vision and now her brother? I can only think of one explanation, and it's not Mephisto. Listen, remember when the first time she turned around and saw Vision and she saw him, as a dead dude, right? a lot of people said, oh, that's actually a walking corpse. And it's just an illusion making us not see that. And what did I say? I said, no, we've seen this in other TV shows and movies 1,000 times. Somebody suddenly looks at somebody else and they see something that was a reflection of a trauma they had, right? They see a reflection of the trauma they had. And I said, I think that's what's happening with when she looked at Vision and saw, the body instead. I think that's the same thing that's happened with Pietro. I think she looked at Pietro and instantly it's that she's trying to suppress her pain. She's trying to suppress her tragedy, but once in a while it slips out. Her pain comes back, resurfaces in her mind. So she looks at her brother and she relives having to watch him die in the streets in Age of Ultron. And so she sees his dead body with the bullet holes in him and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's just a traumatic thing. I don't think it's any sort of literal thing. I could be wrong though. I mean, I could be way wrong on that. All right. Evelyn writes, I have less trust in the S.W.O.R.D guy once again. I mean, look, there's no doubt, Evelyn, the dude is shady. No doubt the dude is shady. I'm still not convinced he's a villain, but maybe just a big dick, but maybe he is a villain. We'll find out more. Sam Fisher writes, a really great episode. I don't know what I was expecting, but not really what we got. I mean, I agree. I thought this was going to be a slower episode, Sam. I thought this was going to be a slower episode because we're heading into the final 3 episodes now. That's all we got left. We got 3 episodes left. That's it. So we're heading into our final 3 episodes. So I felt like this will probably be a slower one that maybe sets some things up. And they were just boom, 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 boom. Like just crazy, super relevant things being dropped left, right, and center. It was madness, Sam. It was absolute madness. All right. Next up, Cam K writes, why would they show this Quicksilver dead instead of the other one? Why would he answer her call so quickly? No pun intended. And why is she... I don't know what sus of him mean. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I mean, maybe because she was looking at this version of him, so then she just relived the trauma of it. So I don't know that there's much more. I don't think there's a deeper explanation than that. I think it's really just that simple. Could be wrong though. How did he come to her so quickly? I don't know. It might have been set up from the moment that she talked to Monica after having the babies. She said, I was a twin. I had a brother. He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he? What did you just say? So it could have been in the thing. But again, I think that all really started as she's talking to her kids. And she says, I do. When they said, Mom, do you have a brother? And she doesn't say I did. She says, I do. But I haven't seen him in a long time. So I think either she at that point manifested him, or from beyond the grave, Pietro heard her and came to her, although I'm not sure I buy that. Or this some other power that's involved here. It's like, ooh, Wanda wants to see her brother. Let's create her brother. I don't know, but it's something we got to watch out for, Cam. All right, Casey McNatt writes 2 of 2. It's Nightmare. He has the ability to draw power from the psychic energies of the subconscious mind, and dreaming begins. Listen, I've said for a long time, I'm not bought into Mephisto. I'm not bought into Nightmare. I'm certainly not bought into Doctor Doom. I'm certainly not bought into Dormammu or all these other theories going out there. But after watching Yo Magic, I'm still not there that it's Nightmare. I'm still not there. But I'll tell you what, I'm more open to the possibility of Nightmare could be involved here. I mean, it's hard not to acknowledge that potential now, right? Like, and by the way, there are a lot of things still on the table. I mean, Mephisto is still on the table. I mean, I have never thought Mephisto was involved, but I'd be naive not to acknowledge Mephisto's on the table. Mephisto could be. And I'm still not there on Nightmare, but I got to tell you, there's a more and more compelling argument being made for Nightmare, especially with that whole, and AJ Mars in the live chat. Yes, John does read the comments. I mean, as much as I can, I'm trying to talk and keep my thoughts organized, and the comments are going by pretty quick, but I do look over and check in on the comments. I do. Anyway, So I I would be naive at this point not to acknowledge that the case for either Nightmare or a Nightmare-like character isn't a case for that being built more and more and more. There is a case for that being built, and I'm more open to it being Nightmare than otherwise. But again, what's really strange here is that we only have 3 episodes left. And if there is another bigger villain behind the scenes, really? We've got 3 episodes left of the show. We are now 2/3 of the way through the show, and we haven't even met the villain yet. We haven't even met the villain yet. And so it's interesting, but we'll see. We'll see what happens here. All right, next up, Sam Fisher writes, is it just me or was Agnes being in the credits strange, especially because this is the first time she was in the credits, but not her first episode? Again, to me, that is a huge flashing light. Look, most of us, right, guys? Most of us have believed here that Agnes is more than just the average Westview resident, right? What she is, none of us agree, but we all agree she's more than just the average resident. And if we ever needed 100% concrete proof of that, the fact that Agnes is now in the opening credits, specifically named, like just her, with Vision, Wanda, the kids, and her, featuring really prominently in the opening credits. And there were other ones where it was like a collage of different characters, but if there was anything else, this one kind of put a nail in it. Sam Fisher also writes, love the cutaway flashback to her childhood of Halloween Sokovia. I'm so glad you brought that up. Did you guys notice? First of all, I thought that was hilarious. They're trick-or-treating and just some old gypsy woman with a fish. But did you notice too in that scene that as they're trick-or-treating, if you listen to that scene, you can hear war going on in the background. Like you hear machine guns and all that kind of stuff, just kind of emphasizing again, these kids grew up in a bad environment. Wanda's life has been a life of tragedy. Wanda's life has been a total life of total tragedy up until this point. And that scene even just reinforced it more, but I thought it was hilarious. Trick-or-treating and getting fish handed out there. Okay, let's see. What's next? Sam also writes, you probably suppressed a lot of the trauma. That might be the most telling line this whole show. Yeah. Because this Pietro, whoever he is, that is a very strange line because it could go one of two ways. It could re-emphasize that he truly is the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver who died in Ultron, and he does know all this stuff, and he really understands what's going on here because he knows Wanda is suffering and all that kind of stuff. Or it could go the other way, that him saying to her, yeah, you're probably suppressing all this stuff, is a way of him covering up the fact that he doesn't actually know her real history. He doesn't actually know what happened in their childhood. And he's saying stuff like that to kind of cover his tracks. So it could go either way. It could confirm things one way. It could confirm things the other way. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Sam Fisher also writes one of two. Like you, I now think Monica will get her powers in Captain Marvel 2, but going through the hex twice might be the cause of it. Maybe, but then again, if what's going on with her on a cellular level is going to give her superpowers, then you're going to have a lot of people having the beginning of superpowers here, right? So I don't know. I'm still leaning, ever so slightly leaning towards the idea that this is just a health issue. This isn't about a superpowers issue. It's a health issue. I don't think it's mutants. I don't think Kevin Feige has any plans to introduce mutants into the world through WandaVision. I still think we're a year or two away from that. But I think it could very well just be, oh, hey, just like if it was real life. Yeah, you went through something that had a lot of radiation and now your cells are kind of being affected. In real life, that doesn't mean you're getting superpowers. That means you're going to die. So you best be careful. So I don't know, but it could be, I'm not, again, I just say I'm leaning that way. Let's see where this goes. Let's see. And then Sam also writes, although Darcy Although Darcy, everyone else going through means they'll get powers unless they don't go through, are instead inside when it breaks. Again, I don't think this is people are going to get superpowers from going through. I don't think that's not what Wanda does. Wanda doesn't bestow, here, you get to have superpowers and you get to have superpowers. I don't think that's what's going on here. But hey, this is the MCU, so anything could be on the table, I suppose. All right, next up. The CTB writes, did you notice how Tommy got his powers first because he was born first? The X gene activates once a human reaches a certain age, just saying. How? Where? There is no X gene in the MCU. The comics, what happens in the comics is irrelevant. So I don't think this is an X gene thing. Again, I don't believe, like everybody screamed at me, John, this is the Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men movies. And I said, no, it's not. And I think it's pretty clear that it's not now. But I still don't think she's doing anything to create. I don't think these are mutants. I don't even think the kids are real. I'll tell you, that's where I'm at right now. Right now, I'm still at the place where I don't even think these kids are real. But I don't know that. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. All right, Sam also writes, 1 of 2. A scene between Wanda and Pietro makes me think that the true villain lured Wanda to learn how her powers work because it feels like an interrogation. Maybe the villain wanted to break reality, gain the/her powers, or have Wanda do it, and Wanda could do it by accident at the end. That's going pretty far. That's going pretty far. But look, the place I'm at right now and where I'm in a position of agreement is that we could possibly have another player involved. Actually, I'm fairly convinced there's another player. And that other player is not in control. Like, I think it's becoming more clear Wanda is in control, but it's kind of like that devil on the shoulder. You know what? You should totally steal that money, Bobby. Yeah, you should totally, I don't know, go hit on your buddy's girlfriend. Yeah, go do that. I mean, so it's more like this other player is kind of more and more like that little devil on the shoulder trying to encourage her, kind of be a bad influence on her for their own purposes. Maybe to absorb, the more magic she uses, the more they're able to feed on that magic. Maybe. Again, I'm reading a lot. I admittedly am reading a lot into this Yo Magic commercial. I'm reading a lot into it. I don't deny it. I'm not pretending that I don't. But, it is there. It is there. So let's see what happens. All right. Sam writes, Hayward went too far with the line about Maria. But what was that whole thing about her being alone her whole life? She had others, right? I'm not quite sure I don't remember Monica saying she was alone her whole life. Yeah, so I'm not sure what you're referring to that, Sam. So I can't address that, unfortunately. But yes, he told that line about her mom, total dick move. Total dick move. But again, that kind of makes me suspect he's not a villain, but rather he's just really a big dick. I mean, a good guy, actually wants to save the world, but a total dick. So I don't know. We'll see. Sam also writes 1 of 2. Though Hayward having inside access shot him up being the bad guy, but when they said it was Viz, it could just as easily been a GPS in the corpse. Oh yeah, totally. Put there to track S.W.O.R.D, evidence property that Wanda didn't know about or the villain didn't know about. Well, it's not it was a tracker. They're following and sensing what they said in the show was decaying vibranium, which, by the way, I had no idea vibranium decayed. But did you notice Darcy said that specifically in the show? She said it's tracing decaying vibranium, which is fine. Okay, so yeah, that's how they're tracking Vision, because there is no other vibranium around. So but wait a minute, decaying vibranium? I had no idea that vibranium decayed. I would kind of think it would absolutely not degrade. I mean, it's supposed to be the strongest substance in the universe in the MCU, since there's no adamantium there. Right? It's the absolute strongest substance in the universe. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe all I'm saying is it caught me a little bit by surprise. That's all. Just caught me a little bit. Some people are saying in the live chat, rightfully so, hey man, everything decays. True, but would vibranium degrade to a degree that could be detected? I don't know. Again, it just caught my attention. That's all. Just caught my attention. Casey McNatt writes, was it just me, or did it seem like Pietro was trying to get info out of Wanda? Totally did, Casey. Totally did. Did somebody send him into the bubble? And if so, who? Listen, I don't think I don't even think that this is Quicksilver from the Avengers universe. Like, I have been totally convinced this whole time, this is not Pietro from the Fox X-Men movies. And now that seems totally confirmed. It's not. But I'm not even convinced this is Pietro from the Avengers universe. I still think this is a imposter. I still think this is an imposter. I could be totally wrong about that, and it very well could be Pietro from Age of Ultron. It could totally be this Pietro. But I'm not sure he's Pietro sent by somebody else. I'm not even sure this is Pietro. Not even sure this is Pietro. All right, Sam Fisher writes, where are we at here? I have a feeling Monica and Wu are the only ones left. Now Hayward has to work with them, and I hope he comes groveling for help. I mean, that I thought that same thought, because when this episode ends, right, all the other S.W.O.R.D agents have been sucked in. Pretty much it's only Hayward left. It's Hayward and Monica and Wu, and they're the three of them left. And now they're going to have no choice but to work with each other, because for some reason, nobody wants to call Doctor Strange or Hawkeye. Nobody wants to call Dr. Banner. Nobody wants to call Scott Lang. Nobody wants to call anybody else. So it's going to be Hayward and Wu and Monica all working together at the end. Again, I'm not convinced that Hayward's a bad guy. I just think he's a big dick. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, next up. Cam K writes. Javik is saying, everybody's busy. Yeah, everybody's busy. Cam K writes, even though I'm off the Mephisto train, the only way Wanda could possibly be redeemed is if something else or someone else is there to take the blame. And I even think we're beyond that, Cam. I honestly right now think we're even beyond that. Now it's more than just somebody else taking the blame. They're going to have, for Wanda to be redeemed from this, they're going to have to come up with something so extreme. Something as extreme as, this isn't even Wanda. I mean, hey, I've been saying all along, I don't think that's actually Vision. I don't think the kids are real. Blah, blah. Is it? I'm not saying I believe this. I don't. But I'm just saying, for the sake of discussion, is this even Wanda? What if the real Wanda is off in a coma somewhere? And this Wanda is an imposter that thinks she's Wanda, some being that was created to believe she is Wanda Maximoff and was able to be imbued with her powers. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I don't think that's what's happening, but it's going to take something like that to excuse and to redeem and to acquit and to justify Wanda at this point. For Wanda to come out on the other side of this, not being the villain with all this that she's doing, it's going to take something extreme, not just, oh, I had this bad man Mephisto whispering little suggestions in my ears, and so sorry about kidnapping your whole town. I mean, it's going to take more than that at this point. Now, at the same time, I don't think Wanda's killed anybody yet. Except for, I still don't know where Agent Franklin is. Remember the beekeeper? Whatever happened to him? They still haven't told us. But other than that possibility, she might have blown him out of existence. I don't think she's like murdered a ton of people. I think she hasn't committed genocide yet. But, I mean, she's done things that there's just no coming back from. So, I don't know. We'll have to see. All right. Next up, Sam Fisher writes, Who knew Wu, LOL, was a badass and had fighting ability, though I guess being FBI will do that to you. Yeah, I mean, it's our first time seeing Wu in action, but I remember thinking, okay, yeah, he is a trained FBI agent, so that's okay. But then again, they're fighting, like Monica and Wu were fighting trained S.W.O.R.D soldiers. Granted, they did have the element of surprise. They both were able to get in the first shot, and they were both able to get the element of surprise, so I'll give it. But yeah, it was cool seeing Wu have his little action moment. All right, Sam also writes, that line about Monica knowing what Wanda was going through really means something. Maybe. But, I mean, I think there's a lot of people in the world that could relate with the idea of loss and pain and grief. That's not unique to Monica. I think that's a lot of people can relate with that. And so that is, though, showing like something why Monica might feel a connection to Wanda is she understands grief. All right, next up. The Agnes scene was interesting. Couple of theories. One, she works for the bad guy, but got caught up in the hex. Two, she's keeping cover. I think there's more than that. I'm not convinced she is either the bad guy or working for the bad guy. But could be, again, there's clearly something going on with Agnes. There is clearly something at play here. This episode just convinced me even more that she's not the bad guy. She really does want help. But she's also more involved in this than is being led on yet. But what that means and what that is, we don't know. All right, Sam also writes, boy, that commercial was dark, and the shot of dead Evan Peters. Yeah, they continue to not be afraid to do this dark stuff. And again, maybe I'm overinterpreting it, but I'm telling you, that commercial, that Yo Magic commercial, I think might have just told us what the whole gist of this series is. There's an entity encouraging her to use her magic, and he's just sitting back and feeding on Yo Magic. But if he keeps feeding on her magic, it may lead to her dying. And they may need to save Wanda. I mean, I don't know. We'll see where that goes. Okay, next up. Sam also writes, kick-ass reference. Holy shit, I know that reference is so good. Huh, kick-ass. All of us, like I said, it was me and Aaron and Tom, and we heard that, and all of us just started laughing, and that was a great reference. All right, Sam also writes, interesting they brought up the accent thing, but give no in-world explanation, though in real life, Feige or Russo's have said Wanda wanted to assimilate. Well, I mean, and that's kind of irrelevant too. That's kind of irrelevant because when she's in the 50s thing, she's talking like a 50s person. When she's in the 60s, she talked like a 60s sitcom. When they got into the 70s, she talked like a 70s sitcom. So I think what Pietro or whatever that dude is, what he was suggesting was, we're just fitting in with the show. I think that's what he was implying. Where's your accent? What happened to yours? We're fitting in with the show. We're just doing our thing. That's how I kind of interpreted it. I could be wrong. All right, next up. Casey McNatt writes, any speculation on what that commercial was a reference to? I'm still trying to figure it out. Again, unlike the other commercials that up until this point have been references to the tragedies she has experienced, this seemed like something completely different. This didn't seem to reference any of the tragedy she's had in her life. This seems like it just laid out the show for us. I'm feeding on Yo Magic. When I'm hungry, I just feed on Yo Magic. I mean, that's what it seems to be. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like they just gave us the secret to the show. So could it be Nightmare? Mephisto could also fit into that, depending on how they wanted to interpret him in a live action event. I still don't think it's either of them, but that's possible. All right. Sam writes 1 of 3. I think we will likely meet the aerospace engineer in episode 7. Oh, not likely. It's guaranteed. Because she said, hey, I'm meeting up with him in an hour, just over the hill. And that's where they're heading to meet him right now. So they will 100% meet the engineer in episode 7. It could be episode 8, but I really don't see it being in episode 9. Also, I think the engineer being a woman can go out the window because other language uses male pronouns. It might, whether the word engineer is considered to be male or female in the language. No. So here's the thing. There were some people writing in after episode 5 when she said, I know this aerospace engineer, there were some people who wrote in who said in the Spanish, it was using female pronoun, it was using the female terminology. So this aerospace engineer could be a woman. But in this episode, Monica explicitly says, my guy. Monica explicitly says, I'm going to meet my guy. So I think that puts that aside. There was a lot of interesting kind of speculation about maybe the language in a different language interprets it as being female tone, but this one puts it to rest. It's a guy. She says, my guy. I mean, it could be he meets a girl or Monica goes and meets a girl, but I mean, I think they made it pretty clear it's a guy in this one. So that's the one seems to be put to rest now. All right. Cam K writes, so I'm now thinking Agnes may, blah, blah, let me try it again. I'm now thinking Agnes may be on the victim side more, but what's up with no ID? Again, there are so many things in this show that point us towards Agnes is a bigger player here. But how, why, and with who is still completely up in the air. She's still the one person that has no ID. They put her in the opening credits. The conversation she was having with Herb. I mean, clearly she is a bigger player here, but I still don't think she's a villain. And I still don't think she's involved with the villain, but there's something, there is something going on. All right. Casey McNatt writes, love the Malcolm in the Middle inspiration for this episode. Was almost hoping for a Bryan Cranston cameo. You know what? I never watched Malcolm in the Middle. So when this whole thing started, I didn't know what it was. I was trying to figure out what it was referencing. And then, Ann, Aaron, and Tom were all like, Malcolm in the Middle. And I'm like, oh, I never did watch Malcolm in the Middle. So I had no idea about that. But it went over my head. But yeah, it seemed, then I looked on my Twitter feed and everybody was like, Malcolm in the Middle. So I was happy for everybody. And wouldn't it always be good to get a Bryan Cranston cameo in something? Who knows? Maybe he'll show up at the end as Professor X. I don't know. But it's always good. It's never a bad day, KC, to have Bryan Cranston show up. Never a bad day to have Bryan Cranston show up. All right. James Argenta writes, Hayward reminds me of Holdo from The Last Jedi, with Monica having the same role as Poe. So if I get this right, MCU Quicksilver mind in Fox's Quicksilver body. It's again, I don't believe there's any connection. I believe them casting Evan Peters in this role is just both a misdirect and a big, isn't this awesome kind of thing by Kevin Feige. I do not believe this is in any way, this is supposed to be. I said this last week, and after watching this episode, I'm more convinced than ever, although episode 7 could prove me completely wrong, which has happened. But I am more convinced than ever that this is nothing, there is no Fox X-Men universe here. There is no Fox universe here. So why Evan Peters? Why that face? Oh, these are all great questions, and I think we'll get those answered. But that's me. All right, next up. And by the way, James, you could be really onto something with that Holdo and Poe. I mean, it could end up that Hayward, like by the end of this, Monica's going, you know what? Hayward's kind of right about a couple of these things. I mean, maybe. Again, I don't think he's the bad guy. I think he's just a dick, but we'll see. We will see. So that's a good theory. I like your analogy there, James. This is a good analogy. Cam K writes, where do we go? Cam K writes, if this wasn't an Avengers level threat before, it sure is now. Hashtag WandaVillain. WandaVillain. I like that. Are we going to get some Hawkeye or perhaps Doctor Strange action soon? I still don't think. I have no idea. I don't know this. I still don't think Doctor Strange is showing up. Everybody's convinced that Doctor Strange is showing up. I don't think Doctor Strange is showing up. But he totally could. I mean, obviously, this is the MCU. He could totally pop in. I think the much more likely is Hawkeye. Number one, in Avengers Disassemble and House of M, Wanda actually kills Hawkeye. Number two, Hawkeye is the closest friend she has. When you go over the history of the MCU and the Avengers, Hawkeye is the closest friend she has. Number three, Hawkeye has his own Disney Plus series coming up, right? So all of that seems to make it more clear that it's Hawkeye. I do not know why Hawkeye wasn't brought in episode 4, But I'm kind of thinking Hawkeye shows up. We'll see, though. We'll see. Okay, next up. Hawk Pajamas writes, John, love everything you do. You're amazing. Thank you so much, man. That's very kind. I can't wait to see what happens to Randall Park in Wanda's expanded reality now. Well, I don't know that he is in her, because I don't think they got caught in it. Monica and him didn't get caught in it. Also, do you think Monica will still be trapped under Wanda's spell when she goes in? Well, remember, when they talked in the last episode, they specifically were talking about, when she first brought up the aerospace engineer, they were talking specifically about creating a device or vehicle that would allow her to go into the hex without being affected by it. And that is why they're going to meet this guy, right? That's why they're heading off now. Her and Wu are heading off to meet this guy now to get this device, whether it's a car or a bodysuit or something that will allow her to walk unaffected into the hex. So that is, yeah, I think in the next episode, we're going to see her enter the hex again, but only this time it's not going to affect her. Or maybe it will. Maybe it's supposed to protect her, but it really won't. Don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's exactly where I think they're going, Hawk Pajamas. Anyway, thank you for the kind words, man. And thank you for sending that in. I appreciate that, dude. All right. James Argenta writes, will get Sam Jackson Capital? will we get a Sam Jackson Capital One commercial? I believe so. Yes, we will. Too much of a missed opportunity if they don't. Adam Martinez writes, that Vision scene was heartbreaking. Oh yeah, when he's like crawls out of the thing and it's pulling him back in. He cannot exist outside of that hex. Although I will say, maybe that was also indicating nobody can exit the hex. But I think specifically Vision cannot exist outside of the hex because he's not real and it's not really Vision. He's only a construct that can be alive inside there. Outside of that, he can't exist. Maybe that's true. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. All right. Let's see. Cam K writes, it seems as if this Quicksilver remembers things differently than the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver would, which makes me think that this is not Aaron Taylor Johnson's version at all. Listen, I am still of the belief, Cam, that this is neither the Fox Quicksilver, nor is this actually the Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver. I do think that it's more likely that it's the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver than the Fox version of Quicksilver. I still think that's more likely, but really, if I had to put $1 on it, I would bet it's not either. I think this is a straight up imposter. I think it's a straight up imposter. Could be wrong, but we'll find out soon. All right, the Wakandan Forever writes, how is this show getting better? Quicksilver has a little mini me running around with him. The movie sign said it all. An Incredibles crossover, LOL. I mean, again, they just keep finding ways to deepen the mystery, give us big WTF moments, answer some questions, introduce new questions, shatter theories, enforce theories, create new theories. You know, they just have found a way to do things so far beyond what the MCU has just traditionally done. And what the MCU has traditionally done has been great, but they just keep finding words to completely like break new ground. They just keep finding ways. All right, next up. Cam K writes, love the show, John. Last message right here. Hey, man, thanks for being a contributor to this, guys. And you're supporting the show while you're doing it, which we are all very grateful for. Thank you for supporting the show. But also, I mean, you're adding to the conversation with this. Great. So thank you, Cam. I appreciate that very much. All right. Casey McNatt writes, I'm sorry, but if I ever got caught in Wanda's Westview, becoming a clown would be the last thing I want to turn into. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think you'd really want to be caught in there in the first place. I don't think there's any positive idea of being caught in there. I think it's all probably pretty negative, but yes, the thing you want to look down and maybe you've been turned into something cool. Nope. You look down, you've been turned into a clown. Maybe that's a reflection of how Wanda sees them. I don't know, maybe, but I'm with you there on that, KC. All right, Ojman 5 or 654 writes, that seals the deal. Pietro is 100% Mephisto. Listen, to me, he's still an imposter. I don't think it's either Mephisto or Nightmare, but after that Yo Magic. After that Yo Magic commercial, if it was, I don't think it's either Mephisto or Nightmare, but if it is one of those two, I'm more inclined to believe it's Nightmare. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong, but there are a few little hints in there that maybe it could be. Again, I'm still not on board with either of them, but if I had to say it's one, I'm going to kind of lean towards Nightmare, although Mephisto still is on the table. All right, last question before we take a short break here, guys. Jay Meister 25 writes, notice in episode 5 that Wanda hasn't changed her real clothes since Vision's death. Reminds me of Jackie K refusing to take her coat off after JFK died. That is an interesting observation. But we could also ask this. Did Wanda just manifest the clothes? I mean, she's actually wearing some clothes in the world and she changes clothes. So I don't know if she's still actually wearing the same clothes she was wearing at the funeral and that she is now. I think she's kind of like Thor, right? Remember in Thor Ragnarok? Thor and Loki are there at the shore. Odin just died, and it looks like Thor and Loki are about to fight. And then all of a sudden, that rift opens up, and out comes walking Hela. Out comes walking Kate Beckinsale. And so Loki and Thor both turn to her, and Thor just goes, boom, and boom, he's in his Thor outfit. Because he wasn't in his Thor outfit before that. Maybe there's something like that going on with Wanda's clothes. Or maybe Wanda was just, maybe it was just, she didn't. Maybe she just didn't. Maybe she literally just didn't have, she's too wrapped up in things and she just didn't have clothes to wear. So I don't know. We'll have to see. All right. Guys, this is what we're going to do. We've been going for almost an hour and a half right now. I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to refill my drink. We're going to have Ann come in and join us. So give us 4 or 5 minutes here. Talk amongst yourselves, with all the theories and everything. Don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back. right, guys, and we are back. Thank you for your patience and indulgence as I took a little bit of a break there. And look who it is, everybody. The better Campea decided to walk in here and grace us with her presence. It's Ann Campea. Ann, how you doing?
I'm good. Just finished a long day of work, but happy to be here.
Good to have you here. Okay, we're going to keep running and rolling here with your questions, guys. So let's keep rolling. Okay, so what was the last one? Okay, that last one was Jay Meister. The next one we're going to do then is Matt McCain that writes, did they whiff on the 90s inspiration? No Seinfeld / Friends, but Malcolm in the Middle? 2000 to 2006. This episode felt like a huge setup for next week. I mean, honey, you were saying, I was telling everybody that as soon as that show started, you're like, Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I never watched Malcolm in the Middle. So it was kind of a...
It's very recognizable.
But you saw, but that was a 2000 show. Did they just skip the 90s here?
Oh, you're right. Did they skip the 90s?
Maybe see if you can bring the mic a little bit closer.
I totally forgot that it was supposed to be the 90s this year. I don't know. Or this episode. I thought it was the 90s or the 2000s, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Let's move on here. Next up, we've got, that was Matt McCain. The Gixter 73 writes, watch this episode while I was waiting to go into surgery and should be out in time to watch the live spoiler review show. This episode just confirms that I have no clue what the hell is going on. I love this show. That's from the Gixter. Well, man, I hope your surgery went. I mean, obviously, it probably wasn't anything too major serious if you're planning it around when you're going to watch the show. But I hope your surgery went well. I hope you have a very quick recovery. I mean, that's the other thing, honey. We were talking about this earlier, that one of the things the show is doing is like, it's killing theories, it's introducing new theories, and a lot of people at the end of each episode is like, they answered a bunch of questions, but I'm more confused than ever. How did you feel coming out at the end of this episode?
No, I felt more, this is the first episode I felt like they answered a lot of questions rather than being, I mean, we're still all kind of wondering what is really going on. But I do feel like a lot of I had more checks than I did like question marks after this episode.
All right, let's move on here. Next up, we have Oxal, who writes, one of two. So, could there be something in Westview that triggered Wanda's hex? She is, after all, on the run from S.W.O.R.D. Was she? Well, I guess so, because she broke out Vision. She is, of course, on the run from S.W.O.R.D., perhaps even heading towards Avengers HQ in New York. So why stop in New Jersey? Like, she could only have been passing through, but stumbled across something there that triggered her powers. Also, I just bought your documentary and look forward to watching it. Oh, thank you, Axel. I appreciate that very much. I do hope you enjoy the documentary, and please do let me know what you think of it. We put a lot of heart and soul and a year of effort into making that documentary. I'm glad you're going to check it out. So thank you for that. I personally just feel like it's just an ideal little town that she could set up shop in. Like, this is ideal. A small town, relatively isolated. I could easily put up a hex around this town. Simple thing. I don't think there's a Buffy the Vampire Slayer like Hellmouth in Westview that gives her this opportunity. Let's put it this way, Axel. You could be onto something, that maybe there's something significant about Westview as a town in general. Personally, I feel like it was an arbitrary thing. This just seemed to check all the boxes that she wanted to do this in. So I remember she wasn't just on the run from S.W.O.R.D. She took the Vision pieces for a reason. And so I just think this town, I don't know, Ann, do you think we're going to find out that there's something special about Westview? Or are we just going to find out it's just a random town that happened to meet her needs? What do you think?
I still think there's something special about Westview. I do. I feel like maybe there's something in the environment that hasn't been revealed yet. I haven't completely removed myself from thinking that there is a reason why she is in that specific town.
Right. Okay. Next up, we go to, thanks for writing that in, Oxal. All right. Rod V66 writes, this is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test. Please stand by. I cannot help but wonder if that standby thing that comes up in the end of each show is kind of what the show is going to end with. Like, there's an emergency broadcast that goes out because of everything going on in WandaVision. And that very well could be it, Rod V. You're not the only one that thinks that, and I think you're right on the money about that. Let's see where that goes. All right, Benjamin GL writes, inverse square law. As the writing gets better, as the writing gets better, as editing and pacing gets worse. Episode 5 and 6 had horrible pacing. Vision leaving Westview was so spaced. I felt no emotion or tension. WTF. Part 2, spaced out. Part 2. It is so annoying. The first 4 episodes were so tight, and these feel like the director got distracted. I don't think they figured out how pacing to storylines. I'm going to feel really bad for James Gunn if Wanda doesn't get canceled for taking a whole for taking a whole town hostage. I will tell you this, Benjamin. I completely disagree with you. I gotta say, I felt like the pacing on this was great because pacing in film is kind of like the cadence of events, right? A movie can be a very fast-paced movie, can be a very slow-paced movie. Fast or slow is not what pace is. It's really the cadence of events. And if you watch this episode, I feel like every scene, there was something significant happening in every single scene. There was bits of information being relayed in every single scene. Even one of the twins turning to the camera, Mom and Dad haven't exactly been fighting, but they've been different. I mean, they're dropping significant, important pieces of information every step of the way. Vision trying to get out of taking the kids so he can sneak off and try to find out what's going on. Pietro with all the shady stuff that he was saying. Like, it felt like every moment had important information and things happening involved that I very much did feel a very crisp pace to it. That's just me. I don't know. What do you think, honey? Do you see it the way I do, or do you see it the way Benjamin kind of did, that the pacing was off?
I tend to agree with Benjamin a little bit in that there were some parts where they really just tried to emphasize. I don't know if I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here, but emphasize the show that they were trying to emulate. So in this case, because it was only Malcolm in the Middle, it did feel like it played into the pacing of the show, because in the other episodes with each decade, they were playing into multiple shows, multiple sitcoms, I thought. So I do feel like there was a part where they were trick-or-treating that there wasn't really any forward progress happening in that part of the episode. So I can see where he's coming from.
All right, let's move on here. And by the way, Benjamin, you point out about the James Gunn thing, but seriously, I don't know how Wanda comes back from this. I don't think Wanda does come back from this. I think she's going to enter into Doctor Strange 2 as the villain, or at least the antagonist. And I don't know that she's getting out of WandaVision season 2, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in, Benjamin. Next up, Hoser Miaz writes, will Wanda create the X gene in the mutant's DNA? No, I don't. Like, every single MCU property that has come out for the last couple of years, everybody is looking for it. This is where the X-Men come in. This is where the X-Men come in. This is where the X come. And every time it's not. And I don't think this is any different. So it's possible. Don't deny that it's possible. It is, but I really don't think that's where they're going with this. All right. Dwayne Fernandez writes, John, the ad is about the Hex. A force is snacking on her magic, while everyone is slowly dying / starving. More proof is that there were 8 sunsets and we have 8 episodes plus the one recap from episode 4. That might be reading too much into it, Dwayne. But Ann, what I was saying earlier is I kind of feel like this commercial was so different from all the other ones. All the other ones was a reflection of the tragedies she has faced. And this one, with the shark saying, when I get hungry, I snack on yo magic. I feel like this was setting up that there is another player in this show who is egging on Wanda to feed on her magical power. And that eventually, if not stopped, is going to lead to her getting killed. I feel like this commercial just told us what the show's about. You saw the commercial. I mean, you, me, Aaron, and Tom were all a little bit confused by it at first. But when you look, you've watched it twice now. What do you think that commercial was representing?
Yeah, it was so different than everything else, right? It wasn't alluding to anything that was happening out on the exterior part of the town. It didn't allude to any of her memories or grief. I still agree with the theory that there is something else at play here. This is not all Wanda. There is something that is, whatever it is, whether it's another faction or another person or another mutant that is playing into what they know her power is. And taking a step back, I mean, Wanda's in this emotional state, right? What was that conversation she had with Pietro where she said, like, when he asked her how did we get here, and she was just like,
how are you doing all this?
Yeah, and she kind of, what was her response? Like, I just remember being
She said,
sad or something.
She says, I just remember being alone, feeling hopeless. And then she ultimately says, I don't know how I'm doing all of this.
Yeah.
It's like she was acknowledging she's doing all of it, but she's like, I don't know how I'm doing all of this.
Exactly.
Really
So
weird.
there's like a puppeteer or something going on here too. And I which is scary to me, because if she is that powerful and is in some sort of like trance by something else, then that gives me the chills, because something's more powerful than her.
I don't think she's being I don't think she's being controlled by anybody. The way I kind of alluded to it earlier in today's show was that it's that stereotypical devil on the shoulder going, hey, you should pinch that girl's butt. Hey, you should steal that money. Hey, you should do whatever, right? Like, it's like we've seen.
So you think it's in her subconscious?
I don't think it's her subconscious. I think there's like another player involved who's just kind of edging her on. I think it's still her making choices, but I think there's some bad influence, like this, hey, Wanda, you should do this or something.
Well, and
like
it's
that.
very like they're making it more and more obvious each episode, right? Like with what's his name, Herb and Agnes the last episode, and then even Pietro this episode. Like, oh, did you want me to change that? Like, or you asked me to be here, you know? Like, so there's enough kind of reinforcement coming from the other characters in the show.
Yeah,
that I'm sure she's just psychotic over everything that's going on.
Could be. All right, next up, we've got Simon Hansen, who writes, would it be a Skywalker level cameo if it turns out to be John Krasinski that shows up as Reed Richards as the space engineer? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. As big as Luke Skywalker showing up in Mandalorian? No. Reed Richards showing up? No. John Krasinski as Reed Richards showing up as the aerospace engineer that Monica is going to meet up with. That, and I only say that, and because for a long time now, people have been going crazy at the idea of John Krasinski and Emily Blunt as Reed Richards and Sue Storm in the Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of, and John Krasinski's come out and said he would love to do that and all these little things. So if that were to happen, yeah, I don't think it's going to be John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. I don't think that's who she's going to meet. But honey, they've been teasing this engineer, this aerospace engineer, twice now.
Next episode.
It's going to be somebody, because literally she said, I'm meeting them in an hour. And then her and Wu were literally on their way to meet him. We're meeting this person in the next episode. It's not some rando, because they don't tease it on 2 episodes for some rando.
Well, and then she used the phrase drop in. So that's why I feel like that's why a lot of people were like, is it someone that...
Can you speak up a bit, honey?
Well, she used the phrase, he's going to help drop me in, right? Wasn't that what she said?
Well, remember, they were talking in the last episode that they had this plan. She was talking to Darcy. So we need this element for shielding me from this. We need this element to protect me from Wanda's mind control. We need this element, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, I know an aerospace engineer might be able... So they were talking about building a vehicle she could take in there. So whether they skydrop her in or whatever, I'm not really sure. Do you have a theory as to who this engineer might be?
I think it's a known character. I feel like I still feel strongly that they're not introducing any new characters. I think for casual fans, that would be tough. I just keep looking at it at that perspective. I mean, they even had to kind of reinforce like, oh, this is her brother, right? With the recap of the last episode, but added in the actual footage of Aaron Taylor Johnson in the front, because not everybody has seen that movie or remembers that happening. So I think for them to introduce someone new in that role would be great, and it would be shocking, but I feel like it's going to be somebody we know.
All right, let's move on here. Next up, we got Surye writes, in Doctor Strange 2016, the mid-credit scene with Thor was also a scene in Ragnarok. What if the post-credit scene in WandaVision is from Spider-Man 3? I mean, that's very much a possibility. They've said before that WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange 2 is like kind of one story arc. So I would kind of expect it to be a Spider-Man 3 reference. They also go on to write, in the finale and Act 2 of Spider-Man 3, Wanda escapes into the multiverse and Spidey gets pulled in. Spidey 3 is Doctor Strange, fine bringing him back. That's going a little bit too far. Now we haven't even got to the end of WandaVision, let alone started Spider-Man 3. So I think that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So I don't think it's going to go that way necessarily, but a post-credit scene in WandaVision, there have been none so far, but a post-credit scene in WandaVision would make sense that it would be Spider-Man 3. All right, Dwayne Fernandez writes, Quicksilver calls the kids demon spawn and says Westview is charming as hell. Mephisto? Again, I don't think so. I mean, having an adult call a bunch of kids demon spawn, that's nothing new. I don't think Mephisto's evolved. Again, I am now leaning towards if it is either Mephisto or Nightmare, and I don't think it's either of them. That whole Yo Magic commercial has made me lean towards more Nightmare. So I still don't think it's Mephisto, but Mephisto is still on the table. Like I'm not saying forget Mephisto, 100% it's not Mephisto. I just don't think it's going to be Mephisto, but it's still on the table. Sheree also writes, Doc 2 has him trying to locate and save Wanda. Again, I think Wanda's more going to be the antagonist of part 2, so we'll see though. Greg Scott Bailey writes, Evan Peters pulling off an Ace Ventura when nature calls vibe with Halloween Pietro. But wow, bits of reality breaks from everyone in this episode. That is true. Like we see Agnes kind of having her break. That one moment though was heartbreaking as Vision's looking around and there's that woman who's kind of semi-caught in the in and out trance of Wanda, just doing this, and then the tears coming down, and Herb even breaking character. You want something changed, Wanda? Like there was a lot of that this episode. Did you notice any more of those kind of moments?
Yeah, I think when you got to kind of like the outer rim of the periphery of like how far she's got the, what are you calling it right now?
The hex?
Her hex going. Yeah, it was, I think those were the most significant ones. And I don't know if you talked about this earlier, but the thoughts on like how far the radius of the hex goes.
Like now that she was blowing it
and
out
why the people kind of on the perimeter were in such a different, like almost dead state versus everybody else that was kind of in the center of the town.
You know what I think that's from? Remember when Wanda was arguing with Vision? And she's so like, I can't possibly control everybody. Like when he's walking there, I think she can only control a certain number of people at a time.
Yeah.
And I think when those one people way out there, she doesn't think Vision's going to be out there at all. She thinks Vision's just doing a neighborhood thing. Those people, she just freezes.
Exactly.
And then when her or Vision are going to be out there, she brings them to, I don't know. That's just a theory.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I think too, that there's like a strength in the radius, where you are in her radius of that.
all right, next up, we got Jesse Keller writes, I love the childlike way Quicksilver acts in the beginning. Makes me wish he had gotten more MCU Quicksilver instead of him dying in the Age of Ultron and got to know him better. I mean, yeah, the character he's playing, Quicksilver, and it's not the real Quicksilver, but Quicksilver, this thing we're calling Quicksilver, is taking on the role and even says to Wanda, right? Says to Wanda, this is what you wanted, right? You wanted me to show up, be the long lost brother, aggravate the husband, be whatever things, get on your nerves. This is what you wanted,
And
right?
he said, cause you grief,
Cause you grief.
specifically.
Yeah. You want me to cause you grief. So, I mean, yeah, it's there. So it's the character he's playing. It is very, very charming. All right. Delia Rios writes, did anyone else notice how Quicksilver's hair resembled Wolverine's hairstyle? Yes, but that is also a reflection. When you go back to that era of the Quicksilver, like Quicksilver,
Yeah, his hair was like that.
he had that kind of hair up there too. But yes, it is absolutely Delia. Sorry about that. You're absolutely right. There is absolutely a Wolverine similarity there. Absolutely there is. All right, next up. K Measure writes, the 90s episode was more like the silly Disney Channel kids narration show, like Even Stevens and Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, it was more Malcolm in the Middle. Some of the people are saying, like, because I didn't watch Malcolm in the Middle, I have no idea when it aired. But somebody was writing in earlier that it was a 2000 show, not a 1990 show.
I looked again. It says the first episode was in 2000, but I also kind of feel like 2000 is so close to 99. I don't know. Like,
But it does seem like they skipped the 90s. They went right to 2000. So the next episode is probably going to be that Modern Family thing, which is a 2010s thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of does feel like maybe they just skipped the 90s.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. We'll have to, why or whatever. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. K Major also writes, did she ever tell Pietro / Peter about Vision dying the first time or second? Because that pissed her off, not more than hearing Vision was dying. Well, no, she never told him. But remember, Pietro clearly knows what's going on. He's fully aware of what is happening here. Like he even knows meta what's going on. In talking with Wanda, he's like, so how did you do it with the kids? Like, did you just have the kids in bed napping the whole time and now you brought them out? Like he is aware of what's going on. So he knows all the context. So yes, he is aware. Like Wanda didn't tell him my Vision died twice. He just knows. And that clearly pissed her off.
Yeah.
That clearly pissed her off. And I think another indication that isn't the real Pietro. Either the
Agreed.
Avengers universe Pietro or the Fox universe Pietro. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's either. Yeah, it's not. He's an actor.
Some kind of imposter. All right, next up, we got Delia Rios writes in, the theater was screening 2 films, one about a superhero family and the other about twins separated at birth. Do you think this was referring to Wanda and Pietro or X-Men Pietro and Ultron Pietro? I don't think this show has any connection to the X-Men Pietro. I honestly think the Evan Peters casting was an inside joke between Kevin Feige and comic book movie fans because we're all in on it and all that kind of stuff. And a misdirect. I do not think there was actually any connection there. But Delia, I got to say, I didn't notice the name of the movies on the theater.
Parent Trap.
Oh, is that one of them?
And was it The Incredibles, maybe? I think.
Which would be like a Fantastic Four kind of superhero team with kids and stuff like that. I mean, I didn't even notice. So I don't know what the meaning is, but again, I really don't think there's any connection to the Fox X-Men movies version of Quicksilver. I don't think that connection's there. But good on you for noticing the names on the movies. Well done, Delia. All right, K Major writes, 1 of 2. John, I know we're tired of the corrupt government agent guy in the MCU, but no one is that much of a dick. Literally, every action he made in this episode was a dick move. Hell, I wanted to punch him. Not even Pierce was that transparent, and he was hailing Hydra. Again, that's the thing, though, K Major. Him being so obviously a dick, Kevin Feige does not make his villains so obvious until he's already revealed them straight up to be villains.
Right.
And so the very fact that he is acting like such a dick makes me more and more believe that he's not actually a bad guy. He is technically a good guy who is just very much a giant dick. And I think now, because at the end of the episode, the only people not swallowed up by the expanded hex is the S.W.O.R.D director, Monica, and Wu. And somebody else brought up earlier in the show today that they're kind of think that we're now going to see they're going to have to work together. The 3 of them are going to have to work together. And I think he'll still be a dick, but I still don't think he's a bad guy. Where are you right now? I'm curious of what's it? Hayward? Is that the character's name?
Yeah.
But the director, good guy who's just an idiot, a bad guy who is obviously a bad guy. I mean, I don't know. Where are you on him right now?
I think where I feel is that he is also in some sort of manipulation. I don't know. I just can't believe somebody can be that much of an asshole without some sort of motive behind being an asshole. So we'll see. I don't know yet.
All right. Again, it would just be the first time that Kevin Feige would be making it so one-dimensionally obvious that he's the bad guy. It's like, I don't know. It just, to me, it's a bit much. I don't think he's actually a villain here. Maybe a jerk, maybe misguided, but I don't think he's actually a straight-up villain. All right. Leo Liang writes, I'm ready for Wu and Hayward to settle their differences in a rap battle. We all know that Randall Park got bars. Well, did you see the video, honey?
I haven't seen it, but I know of it. Yeah.
You know of it. But also, if you go back to I keep forgetting who he did Always Be My Maybe with, what the comedians, that Asian woman's
Ali Wong.
Ali Wong. I mean, he's got Randall Park shows off his musical chops in that one too,
that's
right?
true. Yep.
So maybe we'll see some. I want to see more of a breakdance battle, Leo. I want to see a breakdance battle break out. That would get me. All right, next up, K Major writes, I woke up at 4 a.m. to watch this episode. Damn you, Disney/Marvel. How crazy is it that Darcy is now in the bubble? Now, did it actually move or get bigger? Oh, it clearly got bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, it was expanding.
Yes.
And did you notice, we were talking about this earlier in the show, did you notice that out of everybody who gets swallowed up in the bubble, we didn't see what Darcy looked like in the bubble? Like the helicopter gets sucked in, we see it turn into a hot air balloon. We see the soldiers get sucked in, we see them turn into circus clowns. Darcy has a thing going over, she says, oh, fuck, and then that's it. We don't see what she is in there. So I don't know if she's going to look like a classic age superhero character or if she's going to be another clown, or I just thought it was interesting. But yeah, I mean, I thought it grew. It didn't just move, right? Like she expanded it.
Yeah, I think they showed a shot of the radius expanding over the Westfield, Welcome to Westfield sign. So it's definitely growing.
Okay. Next up, we've got Garrett Couch, who writes, as someone who loves Malcolm in the Middle, awesome. Man, I miss Bryan Cranston comedy. Interesting how Pietro is avoiding questions. I'm telling you, he's avoiding questions. Like when she tests him, she says, hey, you remember that place with that kid with the skin condition? And Pietro goes, you're testing me. But he never answers the question.
No, nor does he say, I'm your brother.
He does.
Well, I mean, in that kind of dialogue at the end where he's
Right.
blah, blah, blah. I forget. But he doesn't say I'm your brother. Like that would have been the first thing I would have said if I was trying to convince her of.
Because he does
what's
say, I mean,
going on.
right when he shows up at the door, he goes, yeah, he refers to his brother and sister and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, he's just shady the way he's digging for information, dodging questions. I think it's becoming more and more obvious. This isn't even Quicksilver. To me, it's not even an argument about, is this the Avengers universe Quicksilver or the Fox universe version of Quicksilver? I don't think it's either. I definitely don't think it's the Fox X-Men Quicksilver. Definitely not. And while there's certainly a possibility that he could be the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver just recast, maybe, but I don't even think that. This is an imposter, maybe even our villain. This could actually be our villain. So I don't know. We will have to wait and see. All right. Nick Ward writes, Wanda rewriting people at a cellular level. I believe that's called mutation. May not lead directly to X-Men, but feels like MCU planting some seeds. Nah. I think that's just a byproduct. I don't think Wanda is genetically affecting, or doing things to people. I think it is a byproduct of living cells passing through the thing. But again, I don't believe there's any mutant introduction, X-Men introduction. I don't think any of that's there. And it is wild to me that every single time something gets introduced, people go, this could be the way they introduce mutants. And then it doesn't. And then another thing gets up. This could be the way they introduce mutants. And they don't. Now, eventually, if everybody keeps saying, this is how they're going to do mutants with every single thing, eventually it's going to be right. Eventually, but I just don't think it's going to happen in WandaVision. I mean, it could be wrong, could totally be wrong, but I just don't think it's going to be in WandaVision. So we'll see. Anyway, Ian Wendu writes, Peters is playing the MCU version of Quicksilver. Listen, if Kevin Feige were to call me and say, John, just so you know, he definitely is playing Quicksilver. It's either the Fox or the Avengers era one. Then I think it's clear that it's the Avengers universe one. He is the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver. But I actually don't think he's either. I think it is more likely that it's the MCU version than the Fox version. So I agree with you on that, Ian, but I still don't think it's either. All right, Nick Ward also writes, is there anything worse than the please stand by screen at the end of each episode? I'm starting to hate it worse than COVID. Honey, I know you, every time that screen comes up, without exception, when we watched episodes 1 and 2, when we watched episodes 3, and we watched 4, and we watched 5, and now we watch 6. As soon as that screen comes up, you say the same thing. What?
Ah.
Ah. And then so short. And then, I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same reaction every time with all of them. But I mean, it's true. Like, just when you start to get lost in the show, it ends. Like it ends. And I'm not going to lie, guys. I am loving WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
But I am also getting increasingly frustrated with the length of the episodes. I'm getting kind of frustrated with it because I feel like it's just when we're really, and I'm not saying they have to do an hour and 15 minutes every episode. I'm not saying that, but this whole 30-minute range when it's only weekly, I am finding it frustrating.
I think it's the right length of time.
You
I
think?
just think you're frustrated because we're all frustrated.
You're the one yelling, what?
That
so
it's
short.
so good and we want to know more. And that's really what's causing the frustration. I don't think this show works if it goes at like the same type of cadence that Mandalorian does, where you kind of have a start and an end in each episode in some respect. And then you're progressing like the big overarching story. I think this show is always going to be like the big overarching story. And we're not going to know everything till we get closer to the end. So
I just feel like they did the one episode at 41 minutes. I feel like 40 to 45 minutes, even though it's only an extra 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes, I feel like that 40 to 45 minutes is the sweet spot. I just feel like it doesn't have to be a full hour.
Yeah, but the narrative in some respect is what's dictating the length of time of the episode, right? Like you're not going to get to 41 minutes, but be like midway through another piece of the plot and just cut it at 41 minutes. Like they have to end it where it makes sense.
It's true. But whereas some people complain that the different shows move too slow, I feel like so much is happening. Like this scene, this gets dropped, and we're still just trying to wrap our heads around that when something others big and significant drops. And I feel like they could just move it out. Again, don't stretch it out to an hour, but I feel like you could add like 5, 6, 7 more minutes just to give it a little bit of breathing room.
Nah.
I don't know. When your biggest complaint is it's too short, that's a good problem to have if you're short. That's my biggest complaint, is that it's too short.
I had some joke there, but I'll just reserve it.
Oh, I know where that was going. My wife, ladies and gentlemen, my wife. All right, next up. Let's see. Brian Yeager writes, her brother looks different because she can't create something from nothing. The casting of Peters was a misdirect. She probably reanimated a local corpse. I don't think she reanimated a corpse, but you raise a really good point that she had to pull in somebody to play the role. And I mean, because she recreated this version of Vision out of the Vision parts. We have no basis. We have no baseline for what her kids would look like because they're just theoretical anyway. And then she couldn't just recreate Aaron Taylor Johnson. So somebody's playing the role of Aaron Taylor Johnson. That's not a bad theory, actually.
It's like I'm sorry, not Captain America. It's like Wonder Woman, what we just saw with Steve Rogers.
Oh yeah.
Or is that his name? Steve? No,
Steve
not
Trevor.
Steve
Rogers is Captain America.
Whatever.
I get the Steves confused all the time. I do.
Steve Trevor. Yeah, I dig that. What that comment was. I think that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that this is literally just a guy that hadn't been activated yet, and she wanted her. That's possible, but again, I think it's more nefarious than that.
True.
I think
he's probing a lot more than like
Yes.
if she's in control of him, he's probing a lot more than somebody that she would be in control of.
Yep, I completely agree. I think there's more to it than that, but I really like the way you approach that, Brian. All right, next up, Thomas Smeedley writes, over under 20%, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Pietro, or X-Men Magneto cameo. Those are two very different things. Those are, you couldn't have said two more polar opposite things. Aaron Taylor Johnson is the Avengers universe Marvel MCU character. X-Men Magneto is a totally different thing. That's a way out there. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I'll tell you what, before this episode, I would have said I didn't think Aaron Taylor Johnson was ever going to appear. Them showing him in the previously on WandaVision makes me wonder if at some point he's not actually going to show up.
Yep.
I
still
will
alive.
I'm not going to say over 50%. I'm not going to say over 50%. But if you're setting the line, Thomas, if you're setting the line at 20%, I will take the over 20%. Maybe not 55%, but I'll take over 20% that Aaron Taylor Johnson makes an appearance. So I don't know. Ann, what do you think? Over under 20? 20% is a low number. I mean, that's a low line. Like, what do you think? Or more or less that Aaron Taylor Johnson actually appears in the show?
More.
So you're going to go over as well?
Over. Yes.
All right. I agree. All right. Next up, we got CJ Legend 89 who writes, "Hey, John, I'm hoping next episode we get Wanda flashbacks as Wanda explains to Vision why he is dead. She can't lie to him anymore. Shout out to the Mephisto reference. Go get them, Demon Spawn." I don't like. Here's the thing: every time somebody says anything, they go, "Oh, that's a Mephisto reference." I really don't think it's Mephisto reference. But if the kids are actually Demon Spawn, because they're not Vision's kids, unless she made them out of Vision's scrap, and then they are Vision's kids, I guess, in a way. She created them out of Vision's scrap, but the whole idea that it's actually Mephisto's the father, and all this kind of stuff, or Nightmare's the father, whatever. Then him calling them Demon Spawn would actually be a literal reference. I still think it was a phrase. You little devils, or whatever. I still think it's a phrase. I don't think there's more meaning to it than that. I don't know. But then again, you got to understand, I don't think Mephisto's a part of the show. I don't think we are only 3 episodes from the end. Are we really 2/3 of the way through this show and we've really never met the villain Mephisto, if Mephisto is the villain here? That seems unlikely,
Yeah.
but not impossible. Where are you on that right now?
Oh, I've never bought into that. I've never have. And I continue to watch the show kind of with the lens of, would they go into that much detail for the most casual fan? And I just don't think it makes sense. I think if they did it, I actually would also be probably disappointed in many ways if they did actually go that way.
All right. Next up, we got, where are we at here? Okay. That was CG. Yes. Ian Nguyendu, by the way, it would be interesting to see her having that conversation though, CJ, with Vision. It would be very interesting to see her actually have that conversation with Vision. But then again, I don't think that's the real Vision. She's going to have to explain to him why he's not the real Vision. Anyway, Ian Nguyendu writes, 1, Vision can't leave because he doesn't exist outside. I totally believe that. I am totally on board with you on that. Also, he was created when the hex was made. I also agree with that. I think she took the parts that were laying around the S.W.O.R.D facility, took them and created this version of Vision, if you will. But I believe you're right. He's not real. That's why he can't leave the hex. And he was made when the hex was made. So I'm totally with you on that. 3, so once the hex is gone, so will he. Yep, I've said it before. He's not getting out of this show. Because in Spider-Man Far From Home, which takes place 7.5 months after the events of WandaVision, it's publicly stated there that Vision is dead. So Vision, one way or the other, whether he's the real Vision or not, I don't believe he is, but either way, he's not getting out of this show. He's gone again by the end of the show, which is going to make Wanda go even more mental. Therapy for Wanda. Arthur Smith writes, "This episode left me wondering 2 things. Where the hell did the children come from? And how Darcy is now a Mr. Robot level hacker." Yeah, I mean, she's what did she say? She's an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
How come in movies, any smart person can do hacking? Like, I am a biologist. I work on South American diseases. Hack into a mainframe? I can do that because I'm super smart. She's an astrophysicist. How is she hacking into all the computer systems?
I can't remember. I honestly don't remember her attributes of her character either to remember if she was good with computers or not.
I mean, but being good with computers is one thing. Hacking into military government-grade firewalls, that's not what an astrophysicist does. An astrophysicist is something completely different. But also, where did the children come from? Oh, listen, that's the question that even this version of Pietro was asking. Even Pietro's asking Wanda, how'd you come up with the kids? Like, were you hiding them away somewhere? Like, what were you doing? And she goes, you don't think it was wrong of me? Nah, I'm impressed. Totally. That is the question. But again, yeah, how the hell is she hacking into military government grade firewalls and all this kind of stuff when it's totally not her field of expertise?
Wasn't like the folder she found named after the director? Like it just said his name on it. Like that's some horrible file management if you just put your name on the private folder.
I think it was like, what's the guy's name again?
Hayward or something?
I keep forgetting his actual name.
I don't know.
But it says like Hayward or something. It says Hayward eyes only.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. Like, if anything, it's like telling
she found his like porn folder in there or something.
That's where I keep the nasty stuff. Now my mind's going off in a million different directions. That's his own little private 2 girls 1 cup folder. Don't look in there. But that's like telling a child, don't touch that shiny red ball. It's
right.
It's like if you were trying to encrypt or hide your files, you wouldn't put definitely don't open this file.
So maybe it wasn't that hard to find that folder.
Yeah. Who's that? Jared in the live chat is saying, let's be a lesson. Delete your internet history, kids. Yep. Okay. Next up, that we already got to Ian. Next up is Arun, who writes, WandaVision is changing the TV streaming landscape. The production quality and the VFX work is the best I've seen. Falcon and Winter Soldier will only push the boundaries even further. No pun intended. CW will sweat. Oh, well, no, CW. Listen, CW is nowhere near. CW is not competition for Disney Plus or HBO Max or Amazon. It's like saying that dude at the corner of Angel Stadium selling hot dogs off the side of his bike, and he's grilling up little hot dogs, is competition for McDonald's or Burger King. It's a different level thing. Like CW is a low budget, needs much smaller audiences. It doesn't need big audiences. It's a different thing. So CW is not sweating it at all. But yeah, they are doing really good effect. But you also got to keep in mind, they have limited when they need effects. They've been very creative on making sure they minimize how often they need effects. Mm-hmm. So they have, I'm sure, a limited effects budget, not tiny, but limited. And so they make sure, instead of overusing effects, let's save it so that when we do want to use an effect, we can put a lot into it. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be their stuff. And yes, I agree with you that Winter Soldier and Falcon and Winter Soldier is only going to push that even more. I think we're going to get more into it there. So I think you're right about that, Arun. Thanks for writing that in. All right, Murray Reich writes. Where do we go? There he is. I'm convinced by you that Quicksilver isn't real, and especially he acts very weird. He doesn't even respond to her questions, only gets his answers conveniently interrupted. I still think Agnes is playing us. So what I was saying before, Anne, is that, and first of all, Murray, completely agree with you about Quicksilver. He's not Quicksilver. This isn't Quicksilver. So that's where I'm at right now. Could be wrong. It's a possibility, but that's where I'm at. Agnes, I was saying earlier, I am more convinced than ever after this episode about 2 things. There is something very off about Agnes. She's clearly not just another average Westview citizen. She's in the opening credits. She's obviously plays a bigger role. But I'm also more convinced than ever that she's not the villain. I just don't think she's the villain. Everything I see in this show, from her being afraid of Wanda, the interactions about the dog, the conversation she just had with Vision, although that could be a misdirect. But I am convinced that there is way more than meets the eye when it comes to Agnes. But it's not that she's a villain. That's how I'm feeling right now. How are you feeling about Agnes right now?
Yeah, I don't think she's the villain. I don't know why this has been lingering with me, that she has a connection to the outside world. Like, I don't know. My theory is like the director of S.W.O.R.D is Ralph, or there's something.
Ooh,
I don't know.
That maybe, I don't know what, Ralph, that she's maybe Hayward's mistress. What if we find out that Hayward's first name is Ralph?
That's what I'm saying.
Have
They
we
haven't said his first name,
I mean,
right?
guys in the live chat, have we heard Hayward's first name?
But
Has
I
anybody
do.
mentioned Hayward's first
It's.
name?
I think it's odd that she's always talked about Ralph. We've never met him yet. I feel, and she's a little off from the rest of the town. I think she's got some sort of
All right,
connection
people
to
in
the
the live
outside.
chat are saying they have mentioned his first name. It's Tyler.
Okay.
Okay, because I'm sorry, just for a second there, I got excited. They've never said Hayward's first. What if it's Ralph and she's like his secret mistress, and that's why he's so mad at Wanda? Because think about that. Why would he be so angry at Wanda for what's going on there? Wouldn't we expect if he's got his secret little side girlfriend?
That is some weird, like, daytime TV storyline going
Oh,
on. If that was the truth.
It's a telenovela going on in here. That's his girlfriend in there, and he's mad. Okay, but it's Tyler, so there goes. Oh, that's all done.
Something's off though with Agnes, and I agree with that. I just think that she just was not a original part of the town.
Right. Okay, that's possible too. All right, next up, Ian Wendu writes, she knows how to control the hex. Did something show her, or was it spontaneous? No, it's her hex. I don't, listen, I know there's still people who think that somebody else created the hex, somebody else did all this. I think what we now know for sure is that, no, this is Wanda's. Why she did it, how she started, all that kind of stuff is still a big question. But Wanda freaking out and going, boom, no, enough of this shit. She expands it all out. It's no one showed her. This has been her. It's not spontaneous and nobody showed her. It's her hex. That's what I think they're alluding to at any rate. All right, Murray Reich writes, you can tell that in order for Vision to be alive, she needed to expand the town, but she added Hayward's team as collateral damage after effing with her. Yes, I agree. Like that whole thing about expanding it was she knew Vision was in trouble, but I think she also had enough of the shit. And she decided, boom, I'm just going to swallow these S.W.O.R.D people in at the same time. I'm going to expand my area of influence. I'm going to make this more difficult. But yeah, I think the primary motivation, I think you're right, Murray, was she had to get Vision back into the hex. So she expanded the hex. Although why she expanded it a mile instead of 10 feet.
Emotion.
Or that the fact, like, she did it to save Vision.
Save Vision and drive them out.
She made it bigger because she's had enough of the shit.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like. So we'll see, Murray.
Especially when you threaten the one thing that she's got left.
It's the whole reason she's doing this for.
Yeah.
Is for Vision, to have a life with a Vision. All right, Patrick Conway writes, do you think Disney should give a strong push for Emmy nomination for Elizabeth and Paul because they have been doing phenomenal? I mean, I don't know, maybe. But listen, you're absolutely right about both Elizabeth and Paul. They have been great. If their performances weren't really good, it would be as hard to be as invested in this as we are. It is their performances that are grounding. This whole thing about Fantasyland and we live in a sitcoms and I'm a witch and I'm a wizard and blah, blah, blah. And like, they make it feel grounded. They make it feel real. Even in this episode, and when they were talking to each other about him leaving instead of going on the Halloween thing with them. You could just feel that in their conversation and in their discussions. Like you could just feel that. What have you been thinking about their conversations or their performances so far?
Just overall or just in the last few? I think
overall
has been great. I think they portray kind of the ups and downs of any marriage, right? But I think in the last episode where they kind of had that big blow up made it very telling of kind of where this is all going from their relationship standpoint, as well as kind of from their acting abilities. I think they've done great. They have great chemistry. I think when they're upset at each other, I feel sad, so they're able to kind of portray that true relationship for me.
I agree. All right. And again, I brought up the wrong picture. Again, look at this weird picture of that creepy dude in the background just staring at Wanda. I still think there's something weird about that. Okay. We move on here.
Oh, you noticed that too, huh?
Oh, yeah. That dude is just standing back there.
It was so weird.
That is so creepy.
That extra. Yeah.
Yeah. That dude is just so creepy. Okay. Next up, we've got CJ Legend writes, the file that Darcy emailed to Wu could be the camera footage from S.W.O.R.D with audio of Wanda talking to director Hayward. The file that Darcy emailed to Wu, I don't know. I don't think so. I think that was Project Cataract. I think that's what she was emailing to. I don't think there was a video file of Wanda talking to director Hayward, but I mean, I haven't had any indication so far that there's any connection between Wanda and Hayward, but maybe there is. But remember, Wanda's been gone. Wanda's been gone for 5 years. I don't think there was time for them to develop some clandestine kind of big plot. That would be something that would take place over months and years. So I think it is confined to Project Cataract. I think it has something to do with Vision and Vision's body and the research they've been doing and maybe wanting to weaponize Vision. Don't know. But I don't think there's a conversation between Wanda and Hayward. Could be, but I think it's more of this secret plan. Okay. Josh Bing writes, Wanda had to have experienced a psychotic break. First seeing dead Vision and now dead Pietro faces. Her mind is fractured far more than even she knows. Oh, I agree. Listen, we've been talking this whole time that this is about a broken Wanda. There's no doubt this is about a broken Wanda. But again, I don't think her seeing dead Vision and dead Pietro is a mental break. We've seen lots of TV shows and movies where somebody looks at somebody and just for a second, they see something that's traumatic to them. And then they kind of shake their heads and then they see what's really there. WandaVision isn't the first show to do this. This has been done many, many, many times. I think it's just that simple plot device. RJ Technovine writes, S.W.O.R.D's operation was a circus from the start. I'll give you a drum hit for that. All right. Marley Marr writes, hey, John and Ann, will Darcy in the Hex bubble be changed to her sitcom version of herself in Two Broke Girls? What do you think, baby?
Wait a minute. When is Two Broke Girls?
I think it's in 2010s. I don't think it's 2000.
Two Broke. Yeah, but if they just did Malcolm in the Middle, and technically that's counts as 2000.
Oh, then maybe then we're getting into 2010 now.
Oh, love it. That's a great one. Because 2011, Two Broke Girls. Love it. That's funny. I hope they do that.
Somebody was joking earlier. Somebody was joking earlier about, what if you've seen her Two Broke Girls thing? I say, oh, that'd be fun. But I totally didn't put it together. It's like, oh, wait, that we will be getting into the 2010s next episode, which means next episode will be the final sitcom era because they're not going to do 2020s.
That would be us.
So they're going to
now.
So, and that is, oh my God, if they show Kat Dennings in her Two Broke Girls outfit, oh my God. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So they're going to do Modern Family for sure, because we saw the preview for her pulling the Modern Family thing. It's got the Mondays, am I right? Right? And Justin Danford just sent in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thanks, Justin. So that's, but yes, if she's in the two, okay, yeah. I never did watch Two Broke Girls, even though I love Kat Dennings. For whatever reason, I could never get around to watching. Did you ever watch Two Broke Girls?
I watched a few. I tried to get into it the same way you did. Like I enjoy watching Kat Dennings act, but there was just some of the humor was not hitting for me. So, and then Modern Family is 2009. So they would all kind of be in that same time.
They would all get in there. Actually, you and I, we were on set of Two Broke Girls. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
When Ann and I were getting the tour of Warner Brothers.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
They took us into, this is the set of Two Broke Girls. I think the show's done now.
It's done.
But this was just before, I think it was when they were shooting their final season. We got taken in there, which is kind of fun, but I never did watch it. But if I know what she looked like in it, so if they do that, I think that'll be really funny. All right. That was Marley Marr. Right. Okay. Next up. The Hero writes, when Darcy says fudge is just great writing. Also, this is terrifying. Who's real? Is Vision stuck? Cellular mutations. This is blowing my mind stone. Again, in real life, if you get exposed to a certain kind of radiation, it can affect and damage your cells. Doesn't mean you're turning into a mutant with superpowers. It just means you're getting cellular damage. And I think that's why Darcy said to Monica, you can't go in again because your cells are getting affected. Like it's a health issue. I don't necessarily think now everybody else is convinced this is it. Everybody who's in the bubble are going to be mutants now. I don't think so. But you never know. It does add up in there. So we'll see. We'll see. Arte Technovine also writes, Agnes is clearly going nuts inside the anomaly. Yeah. Some people think that's a misdirect. Some people think Agnes is just fooling and putting on a show for Vision. But I don't think she is. I think she is hurting as everybody else in there, but there's
Yeah.
still more to her. Epic Dub Time 23 writes, that Yo Magic commercial got real dark at the end. Other than that, pure late 90s, early 2000s nostalgia. Love the homage to Malcolm in the Middle. Now, this is a show you watched, right?
Yeah.
I
Not all
never-
of them, but
I
most
never
of them.
did. I never did. Was like, is that what did they talk to the camera?
Yeah.
Did they fourth wall break?
Malcolm would
everything too?
always, he would break the fourth wall. So it was right on point. Like as soon as I saw it, like you said earlier, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, that's Malcolm in the Middle. Like from the theme song, which the lyrics of that theme song were great, right? Like let's keep this going and going for as long as we can. But yeah, they nailed it from the music to kind of the look to the dialogue to the fourth wall breaking. Yeah, that's all Malcolm in the Middle.
All they were missing was Bryan Cranston. All right. Next up, Mary writes, Wanda, me gusta mucho, Vision, chili con carne. I laughed so hard, and the costume explanations were
That's right.
funny. What did she says? Oh yeah, I'm a Sokovian fortune teller.
Fortune teller.
And he was a
Mexican wrestler.
lucha libre of some kind, Mexican wrestling.
But that reminds me of even just the little dialogue right before that, how uncomfortable that's becoming. Just the little pieces where he's like, because it was the only thing in my closet.
Right.
Like little dialogue is like getting to me because there's a strain in their relationship. And
he's trying to fake out Wanda.
Yeah.
He's lying to her. He's deceiving her because he knows she's been doing that to him, and he's going to try to get to the bottom of it. But yeah, that was great. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, one of two. I'm now even more convinced this is the real X-Men Quicksilver, because if he wasn't, we would have found out in this episode. Oh, I 1000% disagree with that. Anyway, I just can't see them stringing this out for multiple weeks, letting the fans stay this excited the whole time just for a cheap gotcha gag. I think, honestly, Ryan, I think some people are way overestimating like how many people are actually even aware of Evan Peters's Quicksilver.
Right. It's not a lot.
It's not a lot. Like when you move out of the online movie fan circles.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
You ask my mom, hey mom, do you know who Evan Peters is? She'll go, no. It's just not like he's told, and that's not like he's obscure.
Yeah, but
it's really, for most people, it's really not a thing. And if anything in this thing, him actually talking about, like he's actually talking about events of himself as the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver.
Mm-hmm.
I died getting shot in the street. By the way, I don't think it's the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver either. I don't think it's either of them. But I thought this episode really drives home, okay, guys, this isn't the Fox X-Men thing. This is a cute wink from Kevin Feige to everybody. This isn't stringing fans along. And
sure.
I don't know. I just think that's being overemphasized.
Yeah, agreed.
Do you have a kind of a feeling right now about what is the identity of this guy posing as Pietro right now?
I don't know. But he is, I feel like he's in a kind of a similar a role that Agnes is in. Like, I don't feel like he ever even belonged to that town. Like he's dropped into these episodes to kind of get bits of information from Wanda in the same way that Agnes is, but they're not actually residents of the town because we still don't actually even have a file on Agnes, right?
No, we don't. We still don't even know who she is.
So he's one of those where it's like he's not a person in the town. He's from outside, dropped in from somewhere.
Okay, let's see this. Arthur Smith writes, Skeleton Kid at 1610. I don't have the episode in front of me to look at 1610. A skeleton at 16 minutes, 10 seconds did not look like a Halloween decoration. WTF. Things get really sketchy at the edge of town. Yeah, and unfortunately, Arthur, I don't have the show open in front of me. I can't tell you what's at 1610. But yeah, when we see Vision getting out to the edge of town, I think this is an extension of the conversation he had with Wanda. Wanda was partially telling him the truth, I think, that I can't control everybody when they walk their dogs. So I think that she only actively activates people that are in her immediate vicinity or in immediately surrounding Vision. And then the people that aren't anywhere near them, she just freezes. So she doesn't have to worry about them. I could be way wrong about that. Way wrong, Arthur. But that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. All right, next up. A fan of Peanuts writes, okay, episode 6, it's official, John. No more testicle hair. That's a reference to the John Campea Show yesterday. It's official, a fan of Peanuts. It's official.
Yesterday?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. It was
I just
yesterday's
heard
show.
the story.
Zara Francisco writes, I believed we got Pietro from the Fox universe. Not so sure anymore. Also, I think we've seen everything from the trailers now. I'm so excited for episode 7. Zara, that's exactly what Ann and I were talking about earlier. We were in the kitchen earlier today, and I said, now that I think about it, I think it's official. Other than the Modern Family just got a case of the Mondays, am I right? That's the only thing left. I honestly think that is the only thing left that we have had in a trailer and in a commercial that we have not seen in the show yet. So I think that's it. Everything else, I believe now has been accounted for.
And there's how many episodes left? 3?
3 episodes.
Wow, that's a lot.
So there's still a lot of stuff coming. We'll see. But I think everything that's left is coming in the next episode. I think we're going to get that Case of the Mondays line. And if there is anything else that we've missed, I believe that's all going to happen. And then I believe we have seen nothing from episodes 8 and 9. I believe we've seen nothing from episodes 8 and 9. So whatever is still left to show, I believe it's going to be shown in this next episode. And then everything else is going to be brand new uncharted territory. Okay, pardon me. Next up. The Hero writes, funny how we go from studying Chitauri technology to Stark/Banner technology. Clearly they weren't trying to revive Vision. Ultron 2.0 via S.W.O.R.D and E1. Well, listen, I don't know that they weren't trying to revive Vision. They just have no idea how to do it. What Vision has never been. That's why even Shuri, the smartest person in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Shuri, more intelligent than Dr. Banner, more intelligent than Tony Stark. Like Kevin Feige and the producers say the smartest person in the MCU is Shuri. She doesn't exactly know what he was either. And she had some process she worked out that had to separate Vision from the stone so Vision could still be a thing, and she was working on that. But I don't even know that Shuri, if there was a dead Vision, that she could just bring him to life. I don't know that they weren't trying to revive Vision. I'm not saying that they were, but I don't know why we would expect that they weren't trying to revive him and bring him back and to weaponize him. But again, I do think you're also onto something here. I do believe Ultron, they could be trying to reactivate an Ultron or do Ultron again. Only this time we'll control him. That never works out in TV shows or anything. So we'll see. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, quite an unexpected gut punch that since Wanda is now the mom from Malcolm in the Middle, her mother is a Cloris Leachman lookalike. I'll be honest with you, Ryan, I have no idea what we're talking about. Sorry.
Oh, from Malcolm in the Middle, maybe?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I didn't watch Malcolm in the Middle, and I don't know who Elizabeth Olsen's mom is. So that one's, sorry. Got to admit, that one went right over my head.
Yeah, me too.
Anurag P. writes, how important do you think the Mind Stone is? Still waiting for the scene from the trailer 2 where Wanda is clearly doing something with it. That one may or may not be a part, and I'm not convinced that's exactly what was there. Listen, I am buying into the theory a little bit that I'm buying into the theory that the Mind Stone might be the other player involved. Not Mephisto, not Nightmare, not Dormammu, not anything else, but that the Mind Stone itself, the essence of the Mind Stone, is at work here. I'm not totally on board with that, but I'm just saying that I'm buying more and more into the theory. So I don't know. We'll see where that goes. All right, Mary writes, and we've only got a few minutes left here, guys. We've been going for, we're getting close to a couple of hours. Mary writes, she did merge the 90s with 2000s because Malcolm in the Middle started in 2000, but also the cinema had Parent Trap, which is 98, and The Incredibles, which is in 2004.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just close. I honestly thought this was supposed to be the 90s too. Technically, 2000s is when Malcolm in the Middle started, but
Well, then it would have ran. I mean, it started in 2000, but that's just when it started. The bulk of Malcolm in the Middle was well into the 2000s.
True.
And Incredibles is a 2000s thing, but you did point out Parent Trap is not, maybe it was supposed to be Malcolm. Actually, that's something we hadn't considered. So that's a good thought. That's a good thought to put in there, Mary. I think you might be onto something there. All right. Thanks for pointing that out. Next up. Mystical Kung Fu Master Supreme. What a name, right?
Whoa.
Some spicy drama for Captain Marvel 2. I'm ready. Yep, there's clearly heavy stuff going on here. The stuff brought up again with the Carol Danvers. Again, her face goes cold. Absolutely. Luis Dotson writes, you mentioned last week that everyone was in on the mind wipe. Even the MCU real world explained. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't. You mentioned last week that everyone was in on the mind wipe. I don't know what you mean. Even the MCU real world explain. I'm sorry, Louis. I don't know what it is we're referencing specifically. I'm sorry about that. I feel bad that you sent that in. You probably waited for me to answer, but I don't know exactly what it is we're talking about. Sorry, dude. CJ Legend 89 writes, what would happen if Vision released Wanda? Released Wanda? What would happen if Vision released Wanda with his fingers? Oh, with his fingers like he did with Agnes and Norm. So like put it up to her. I don't think anything because she's not in a trance.
No.
This is her. So I think if he tried to do something like that, I don't think anything. I mean, theoretically, I don't think anything happens, does it?
I don't think anything happens either. I don't think it's effective on her. She's not, to your point, she's not out.
Yeah, like Norm is under her control, and then he brings her out. But Wanda's not under Wanda's control.
And Vision's not like a mind reader. Or what do you call it? Like he's not a
telepath.
Yeah, is that the right word?
I don't know what it is you're trying to reference.
Well, because what he's surfacing from these people are their real thoughts because they're under a trance, but Wanda's not under a trance.
Right.
So
he's cutting the trance off. So letting themselves. Yeah, but Wanda's not under a trance. So yeah, I think you're right. I don't think anything happens at that point, CJ. But who knows? Maybe he's like, Wanda, I will fix you. I don't know. Maybe that happens. Maybe it doesn't. All right. The Everything Nerd writes, I don't think you're going to like this, John, but what if Wanda creates a mutant gene, i.e. Monica Rambeau, also the big cameo might be the engineer. I think it's becoming clear the cameo probably is the engineer. I mean, they've teased it. For some rando character, you don't do 2 episodes of teasing. So the big cameo just very, very well may be the engineer. But again, we've already addressed the mutant gene thing. I don't think that's at play here at all. Kevin Adams writes, I saw a theory that Pietro is Loki from the Loki series, but Pietro doesn't match Loki's demeanor when speaking freely. I don't think it's from being in character. Yeah, Kevin, I agree with you. This isn't Loki. This isn't Loki. First of all, there's no connection between Loki's never, I don't think ever met Wanda.
Yeah, I was going to say,
right?
I don't remember seeing them together ever.
I don't think Loki's even remotely aware of Wanda.
Right.
So I don't see how that would be in play there. So let's put it this way. This is Kevin Feige. He can pull the most unexpected stuff out of nowhere. So maybe, but I will just say I would be very, very surprised. I would be very surprised if it ended up being Loki. So I don't think there's going to be a lot to that theory. All right. Let's see. Jacob Silvers writes, after last night's episode, I'm starting to believe that Nightmare's going to be the villain in the show. Hey, listen, like I said at the beginning of this, I don't think it's Nightmare or Mephisto or Dormammu or anything. But after this episode, particularly with the Yo Magic commercial, again, I said this maybe an hour and a half ago or so, but if Kevin Feige were to call me on the phone and said, John, just to let you know, it is either Mephisto or Nightmare, I would now lean towards Nightmare. There does seem to be a growing case that it could be Nightmare. Again, I don't buy it. I still don't think it is. But I'd be lying to you, Jacob, if I didn't tell you that I wasn't also starting to... I still don't buy it, but I'm moving a little bit closer to buying it. I'm moving just a little bit closer to buying it. We'll see. All right. Frankie Gouge writes, Goose writes, I'm back in the It's All Wanda crowd with an assist from the Mind Stone. Maybe a Dark Phoenix take / split personality. That was brought up a lot last week, actually. A number of people writing in that maybe we're dealing with a split personality with Wanda.
Yeah.
I still don't believe that. I think everything seems to point that, nope, she's got that much together. So I'm not buying that. But the whole, I don't think it's all Wanda. I think it's mostly Wanda. I think Wanda is 90% in control here, but I still think there's another player involved that's nudging her or manipulating things a little bit in the background at this point. So I don't know. But Anne, if we get into episode 7, would you be surprised if they show us that, nope, definitively, that's it? We were kind of letting you as the audience hold on to hope that Wanda is still redeemable, still savable. This isn't all her. She's being manipulated. But if they showed us in this that, nope, it's Wanda doing it, would you be surprised if they did that? Or do you think that's something that's on the table?
I'd be surprised. They're throwing in too much dialogue of like, I didn't know, or I didn't do that, or they would have to convince me really well if there wasn't something else at play here.
Okay. Next up, we've got Jacob Silvers writes, who do you think Wurlitzer be the guy? Oh, who do you think? Do you just mean Will? And it be the guy who Monica referenced in this episode? Don't know. I honestly don't know. I have no idea because I don't buy into any of the theories, but I have no theory of my own. There is, of course, a theory that it's John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. That would melt down the internet. There is a theory that they're going to bring in X-Men characters like Hank McCoy, but I don't think they're bringing in X-Men characters. There's some theory that it could be Forge, whose mutant ability is like with technology, but I don't think they're bringing in X-Men characters. If I had to bet $5, my guess would be Michael Douglas, Hank Pym from Ant-Man. Michael Douglas, Hank Pym. Now, whenever I say that, a bunch of people will say, well, what about Scott Lang? Scott Lang is not an aerospace engineer. I don't know that technically Hank Pym is either.
I don't think so.
But he's a super technology super genius. So, I mean, maybe there's that. Other people think maybe Dr. Selvig, Stellan Skarsgård from Thor and whatever, but he's an astrophysicist. He's not an aerospace engineer. Because he's the one who was Jane Foster's mentor as an astrophysicist. So, but I really don't have, I don't have a really good theory.
We should make a list. All the potentials.
I could, but I just don't know who to put on that list. But because clearly it's going to be somebody big. It's going to be somebody where the audience will go, whoa! I just don't know what character that could be.
It is
like. Let me ask you guys in the live
Raccoon.
chat. Do you guys in the live chat have any theories about who it could be? Because I'm telling you, I've got no theories. They're going to come out here. Some people are saying Justin Hammer. Justin Hammer. That's not a bad idea. Oh my God. Hold a second. I think it was just KB. Where's KB? KB from SC just gave me my favorite guess so far. Rocket Raccoon.
I just said that right now.
Sorry, I was so wrapped up in
Did you not hear me in the microphone say Rocket Raccoon?
I'm sorry, I was tied up in what was being Rocket Raccoon.
Okay, thank you, KB. We're like on the same page here because he's the only one who knows how to work on spaceships and stuff. And he flies the ship.
Yes. And he didn't get snapped.
Nope.
He may have met Monica because she may have just met him in the 3 weeks since she's been back. Oh my God, Rocket.
They would have met in space.
That's it. I'm buying into that one. I'm buying into your theory, Ann. I won't say it's just KB's because I didn't hear you.
Rewind the tape.
I will rewind it.
He or she put in the chat and I said it. So we're the same thing. Same mind right
Rocket
now.
Raccoon makes perfect sense. If somebody could build something like that out of nothing, just like that, it would be Rocket Raccoon. Another theory in the live chat is Elon Musk. I don't think it's going to be Elon. Wouldn't that be funny if she meets the guy and it's Elon Musk? Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's Rocket Raccoon.
I do too.
Because he literally could, I mean, she refers to him as an aerospace engineer, but he can just build anything. He can build spaceships, weapons, whatever. And if you're talking about the thing that she was talking about, she needs built, that her and Darcy were talking about, Rocket Raccoon is the one who can do it. Okay, I'm totally on the Rocket Raccoon train. It's official. I am all on board the Rocket Raccoon train.
I don't know. I think it makes sense to me.
All right, guys, listen. We are coming up on 3 hours. And unfortunately, Ann and I have an engagement that we have to go and get to. So we're going to have to cut it off here at 3 hours. But we will get through all the rest of the stuff that you guys have sent in. There's so much great stuff in here. So we will pick up with Jacob and Frankie and Lucky Dragon and many others to come. We still have a lot to get through. But we will have a part 2 of this tomorrow. Part 2 of our WandaVision season 1 episode 6 spoiler to get through all the rest of your stuff. We will have that. We will get to that part 2 tomorrow. Keep your eyes open for it. And like I said today, we do have to cut this one to 3 hours. It's still funny to me that for a 37-minute episode of television, we're getting close to 3 hours. We've been going on this, and we have many more hours to go. So guys, for everybody else who's still waiting for your questions to come, don't worry. You sent in the questions. They're getting answered. Don't you fret about that. We're going to get to those this weekend. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for this installment, at least part 1 of our WandaVision episode 6 spoiler discussion. I want to thank, of course, the better Campea to show up here. And Campea, thank you for joining us, baby.
You're welcome.
Where can people follow you and your greatness online?
Well, you can follow me at Ann Campea. I also have a cosplay page on Instagram at Ann Cosplays, and my professional page is theeverydaypm.com.
And of course, you guys can follow me on all the various social media networks, Twitter, Instagram. I love my Instagram account, by the way. Instagram, Facebook, whatever, just at John Campea. Guys, thank you for being here. A special thank you to all you guys who sent in the live questions and theories and stuff like that. Number 1, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. And number 2, you support this channel when you do. So thank you guys very, very much for that. Okay, guys. Again, part 2 will come up tomorrow. That'll do it for us for now. Remember, do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye. Rocket Raccoon.